You've found the Stealth Podcast. Where are you watching from? What time is it there? Subscribe and comment to support us. Thanks. Let's begin. My name is Bryce Whitaker, and I'm 34 years old. I've been living in Portland for the past decade, but the rainy weather and crowded city life finally got to me. 6 months ago, I sold almost everything I owned, bought a 2015 Sprinter van, and spent weeks converting it into my dream home on wheels. Solar panels on the roof, a compact kitchen with a propane stove, a surprisingly comfortable pull-out bed, and enough storage for all my photography gear. I'd been making decent money selling landscape photos online, and figured I could do even better traveling through the Southwest. My girlfriend Lena was supposed to join me on this adventure. We planned it together, sketched layouts for the van conversion, talked endlessly about the places we'd visit. But 3 weeks before our departure date, she got offered her dream job at an architecture firm in Seattle. We tried to make it work, promised to video chat every night, but deep down we both knew. The night before I left, we said our goodbyes. Sometimes life pulls you in different directions, and forcing things only breaks them worse. I'd been on the road for almost a month when I crossed into New Mexico. The stark beauty of the landscape immediately captivated me. Red rock formations stretching toward impossibly blue skies, expanses of desert dotted with juniper and pinyon trees. After spending a few days in Santa Fe, I decided to head toward the small town of Abiquiu, where Georgia O'Keeffe had found inspiration for her paintings. I figured I could get some killer shots of the rock formations at Ghost Ranch. It was late afternoon when I pulled into a gas station on the outskirts of Española. While filling up, I noticed an old man watching me from a weathered wooden bench. He wore a battered cowboy hat, and his skin was dark and creased like old leather. When our eyes met, he nodded slowly, then beckoned me over. Against my better judgment, I approached him after finishing with the pump. "Nice rig," he said, eyeing my Sprinter. "You heading north?" When I nodded, he continued, "You might want to stick to the main roads. Some places up there, they don't take kindly to outsiders." There was something in his tone that made my skin prickle. Before I could ask what he meant, a younger man emerged from the station's convenience store and called him inside. The old man stood, gave me one last meaningful look, and walked away. Back in my van, I pulled up my map app and plotted my route to Abiquiu. The direct path followed Highway 84, but a smaller road caught my eye, a winding route through the Piedra Lumbra Basin that promised stunning views. Despite the old man's warning, the photographer in me couldn't resist the allure of the less-traveled path. I figured I'd find a nice spot to park for the night somewhere along that scenic route. The New Mexico sun was hanging low in the sky as I turned onto the narrow road, casting long shadows across the landscape. My phone signal dropped almost immediately, but I wasn't concerned. I had downloaded offline maps and packed enough supplies to last several days. The road twisted through towering rock formations, their red surfaces glowing like embers in the fading light. I rolled down my windows, breathing in the scent of sage and dust, feeling truly free for the first time since leaving Portland. As darkness fell, I began looking for a place to park for the night. The road had become increasingly rough, jarring my van and making the solar panels on the roof rattle ominously. Just when I was considering turning back, I spotted a small dirt turnoff leading to what appeared to be an abandoned quarry. Perfect, out of sight from the road, level ground, and with a spectacular view of the star-filled sky. I carefully maneuvered my van into the space, cut the engine, and stepped outside to stretch my legs. The quarry was eerily silent except for the occasional rustle of wind through scrub brush. As my eyes adjusted to the darkness, I noticed strange markings carved into some of the larger boulders surrounding the site. They looked ancient, spiraling patterns and angular symbols that reminded me of Pueblo petroglyphs I'd seen in guidebooks. I snapped a few long exposure shots, thinking they might sell well in my online gallery. The flash from my camera cast momentary, distorted shadows against the rock walls that seemed to move even after the light faded. After heating up some chili on my propane stove, I sat outside on my folding chair, nursing a beer and marveling at the Milky Way stretching across the sky. The night was cold but breathtakingly beautiful, the kind of experience that validated my decision to embrace the nomadic lifestyle. As I was about to head back inside, I noticed a faint light flickering in the distance, maybe half a mile away. It was steady, Not like a flashlight, more like a small campfire. Strange, this place had seemed completely deserted. Maybe another traveler had the same idea as me. Sleep came fitfully that night. The wind picked up around midnight, howling around my van with unusual intensity, rocking it slightly despite its weight. In my half-conscious state, I could have sworn I heard voices carried on the breeze, not distinct words, but tonal patterns that sounded disturbingly like chanting. I told myself it was just the wind playing tricks, the way it sometimes whistled through rock formations. Still, I double-checked that all my doors were locked before pulling my sleeping bag tighter around me. I woke with a start at dawn, momentarily disoriented until I remembered where I'd parked. Something felt off. Stepping outside, I immediately noticed fresh tire tracks that hadn't been there the night before. They circled my van before heading back toward the main road. Even more disturbing were the footprints, at least 3 different sets, that came within inches of my driver's side door. Someone had been watching me while I slept. My heart pounded as I quickly checked my van's exterior, finding nothing damaged or missing, but the knowledge that strangers had been so close made my skin crawl. Over a hastily prepared breakfast of instant coffee and protein bars, I debated what to do. The rational part of my brain said to leave immediately, but the golden morning light was transforming the landscape into a photographer's dream, the red rocks practically glowing. I'd come all this way for these shots. Maybe the visitors were just curious locals checking on an unfamiliar vehicle, or perhaps other photographers who'd arrived before sunrise to catch the perfect light. I decided to stay just long enough to get the photos I wanted, then move on to a more populated area for the next night. As I hiked deeper into the quarry with my camera gear, I discovered more petroglyphs, these depicting what appeared to be humanoid figures with elongated limbs surrounding a central spiral. Something about them unsettled me. They seemed to be arranged in a pattern pointing toward a narrow cleft in the rock wall that I hadn't noticed before. Curiosity overriding caution, I squeezed through the opening into a small canyon beyond. The temperature dropped noticeably as I entered the shadowed space, my footsteps echoing strangely against the high walls. The canyon opened into a circular area that looked like a natural amphitheater. At its center stood a crude altar of stacked stones, surrounded by small objects that made my blood run cold. Weathered animal bones, feathers tied with sinew, clay figurines with distorted faces. This wasn't just an abandoned quarry. I'd stumbled upon some kind of ceremonial site. The old man's warning suddenly made perfect sense. Some places don't take kindly to outsiders. I backed away slowly, planning to return to my van and leave immediately. That's when I heard the engine. The unmistakable sound of a vehicle pulling up near my van, followed by car doors slamming and voices calling out. Male voices speaking a mix of English and what sounded like Tewa, one of the Pueblo languages. My heart raced as I pressed myself against the canyon wall, trying to make myself invisible. Through the narrow cleft, I could just make out 3 figures moving around my van. 2 men in modern clothes and an older woman wearing what appeared to be traditional dress, her gray hair pulled back in a tight bun. She was gesturing animatedly at my tire tracks, then toward the canyon where I was hiding. The older man from the group suddenly looked directly toward the cleft where I was watching. I ducked back, but not quickly enough. "Hey," he shouted. "We know you're in there. Come out now." My mind raced through my options. I could try to hide deeper in the canyon, but they obviously knew the area far better than I did. I could confront them, explain I was just a photographer who had accidentally trespassed. Or I could try to circle around through another exit, if one existed, and make a break for my van. The wrong choice could be deadly. I chose to face them directly, hoping honesty might defuse the situation. Emerging from the cleft with my hands visible, camera dangling obviously from my neck, I put on my most apologetic tourist face. "I'm so sorry if I'm trespassing," I called out, trying to keep my voice steady. "I'm just a photographer looking for interesting landscapes. I'll pack up and leave right away." The 3 of them stared at me with expressions ranging from suspicion to outright hostility. The older woman whispered something to the younger man, who nodded grimly. "You've chosen a bad place to take pictures," the older man said finally. He wore a faded denim jacket over a western shirt, his gray hair pulled back in a ponytail. "This is sacred ground, not for tourists." There was something in his eyes that sent chills down my spine, not just anger at my intrusion, but a deeper fear, as if my presence had triggered something beyond a simple trespassing issue. The younger man stepped forward, muscular and intimidating in a work shirt with rolled-up sleeves revealing tattooed forearms. "Did you move anything? Touch the altar?" he demanded, his voice tight with barely controlled anger. When I shook my head, he exchanged glances with the woman, who was now muttering under her breath, running wooden prayer beads through her gnarled fingers. "You don't understand what you've done," he continued. "Being here at night, taking pictures with that flash. You've woken them." The way he emphasized the last word made my mouth go dry. I had no idea what "them" referred to, but the genuine fear behind his anger was unmistakable. The old woman suddenly spoke up, her English heavily accented. "The skinwalkers. They sleep in the day, hunt in the night. They sense disrespect, intrusion." She pointed at my camera accusingly. "Your light," it called to them. "Now they have your image." The younger man translated something she said in Tewa, his expression growing even more grave. "She says they've marked your vehicle. They'll follow you now. The skinwalkers never lose a trail once they've found it." I'd heard vague mentions of skinwalkers before, shape-shifting witches from Navajo legend who could transform into animals and were said to prey on unwary travelers. But the way these people spoke of them, with such concrete certainty, made the hairs on my arms stand up. "Look," I said, trying to sound reasonable. "I respect your beliefs and your sacred places. I'll delete all the photos I took here. Just let me get to my van, and I'll leave immediately." The older man shook his head slowly. "It's not that simple anymore. Night is coming soon. They'll be hunting." He looked at the others, some unspoken communication passing between them. Finally, he turned back to me. "You'll come with us to the pueblo. Stay there until morning. There are precautions we can take. Cleansing rituals. Tomorrow, you leave this place and never return." I nodded quickly, relief flooding through me at this unexpected offer of help, though a small voice in my head wondered if I was jumping from one danger into another. As we approached my van, I noticed strange markings drawn in the dust on my windows, not random smudges, but deliberate symbols similar to the petroglyphs I'd photographed. More disturbing were the handprints pressed into the grime on my back doors, handprints that seemed elongated, the fingers unnaturally thin and spread wide. The old woman gasped when she saw them, making a protective gesture with her hand. "Too late," she whispered. "They've already claimed your home." The older man gripped my arm. "You can't take your van. It's marked now. Get only what you need: clothes, wallet, phone. You'll ride with us." When I started to protest, everything I owned was in that van. The younger man cut me off. "Listen carefully. Those things out there, they're not just stories to scare children. They'll tear you apart while you're still breathing, wear your skin while it's still warm." His voice dropped lower. "And they're patient. They'll follow that van wherever you go now." As the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the quarry, they hurried me toward their battered pickup truck. I clutched my backpack containing my wallet, phone, an extra sweater, and my most expensive camera lenses. Everything else would have to stay behind. As I climbed into the truck bed with the younger man, the cab was too small for all of us. I glanced back at my van, my home for the past months, containing all my worldly possessions. In the fading light, I could have sworn I saw something move in the shadows beside it, something low to the ground and quick, there and gone so fast I couldn't be sure I'd seen it at all. The truck bounced violently over the rough terrain as we sped away from the quarry, the older man driving with reckless determination. From my position in the truck bed, I had a clear view of the road behind us, illuminated intermittently by the red glow of brake lights. The setting sun had painted the landscape in crimson and deep purple, the beauty completely at odds with the terror clawing at my insides. 10 minutes into our escape, the younger man beside me suddenly stiffened, grabbing my arm with bruising force. "Don't move," he hissed, eyes fixed on something behind us. Following his gaze, I at first saw nothing but gathering shadows and dust kicked up by our tires. Then I spotted it, a shape moving alongside the road, keeping pace with our truck despite our speed. It ran on all fours, but in a jerky, unnatural way, as if its limbs were jointed wrong. Even at this distance, I could see it wasn't an animal, at least not any animal I recognized. The proportions were all wrong, limbs too long, back hunched at an impossible angle. As if sensing my gaze, the thing suddenly stopped and rose partway to its hind legs, revealing a disturbingly humanoid torso. In the dying light, I could have sworn it turned its head and looked directly at me. "It's tracking us," the younger man shouted to the cab, pounding on the rear window. The truck accelerated, engine whining in protest, as we took a sharp turn onto what was barely more than a dirt trail. The sudden movement threw me against the side of the truck bed. "There's more than one," the man beside me said grimly, pointing to our right where a second shape darted between rock formations, somehow keeping pace despite the rough terrain. I fumbled for my phone, thinking to document what I was seeing, but the young man slapped it away. "No pictures. That's how they find you." The old woman was leaning out her window now, tossing small bundles of what looked like herbs wrapped in cloth onto the road behind us. She chanted continuously, her voice carrying on the wind. The younger man pulled similar bundles from his pocket, placing them at each corner of the truck bed. "Protection," he explained tersely. "Might slow them down." But his expression suggested he wasn't convinced. The truck hit a particularly deep rut, launching us momentarily airborne before crashing back down with a metallic groan. As darkness fully descended, the older man flipped on the high beams, the twin cones of light cutting through the gathering gloom. What they revealed turned my blood to ice, a figure standing directly in our path, motionless and humanoid, but unmistakably wrong. Its limbs were too thin, its head too large and oddly shaped. For a sickening moment, I thought it was wearing some kind of horned headdress before realizing the protrusions were actually part of its skull. The driver swerved at the last second, nearly rolling the truck. As we fishtailed past, the thing's head rotated unnaturally to follow our movement, revealing eyes that reflected the headlights like a cat's, but with a reddish glow. "They're hurting us," the older man shouted, his knuckles white on the steering wheel. "They're driving us away from the pueblo," the young man beside me cursed, pulling out an ancient-looking revolver from under his jacket. I gaped at him, the situation suddenly escalating beyond my comprehension. "Last resort," he said grimly, checking the cylinder. "Won't kill them, but might buy us time." The old woman was shouting now, gesturing frantically toward a fork in the road ahead. The driver took the left path, throwing us deeper into unfamiliar territory. I realized with sinking horror that they seemed to be losing control of the situation. These people who had confidently offered me protection were now looking increasingly desperate. The truck's engine suddenly sputtered, the vehicle lurching sickeningly before regaining power. "They're affecting the engine," the young man muttered. "Old magic. Bad magic." The headlights flickered, momentarily plunging us into darkness before flaring back to life. In that brief blackout, I heard something land on the roof of the cab, a heavy thud followed by the screech of claws on metal. The old woman screamed. The younger man stood, raising his gun toward the roof, but before he could fire, the truck swerved violently. I was thrown against the tailgate, which suddenly gave way beneath my weight. I tumbled onto the dirt road, momentum carrying me into a painful roll that scraped skin from my palms and tore my jacket. Dazed, I looked up to see the truck fishtailing away, its taillights receding rapidly. Whether they didn't notice I'd fallen or couldn't safely stop, I didn't know. Either way, I was alone in the darkness, miles from anywhere, with those things hunting all around. Struggling to my feet, I felt a sharp pain in my ankle, not broken, but definitely sprained. My phone had shattered in the fall, the screen a spiderweb of cracks that flashed eerily before going dark. The moonlight provided just enough illumination to make out the road. I limped forward, knowing movement was my only chance at survival. Each shadow seemed to writhe with potential threats. Every rustle in the scrub brush sent fresh waves of terror through me. I had no idea where I was going, just that I needed to keep moving, hopefully toward some kind of safety. After about 20 minutes of painful progress, I spotted a structure silhouetted against the night sky. What appeared to be an abandoned gas station or roadside store, its windows dark holes and crumbling walls. As I approached the building, a distinctive odor made me gag, the sickly sweet smell of decaying meat, overlaid with something chemical and acrid. Every instinct screamed at me to run, but there was nowhere to go. I needed shelter, a place to hide until daylight. The front door hung askew on broken hinges. I slipped inside, finding myself in what had once been a small convenience store. Broken shelves lined the walls, and the floor was littered with decades-old trash and animal droppings. A counter ran along the back, behind which I could make out a storage area. Perfect, a place to hide with only one approach to watch. I had just started to move toward the counter when I heard it, a soft, rhythmic clicking sound coming from outside, like bone tapping against stone. It moved around the perimeter of the building, stopping occasionally as if testing the air. I froze, barely daring to breathe. The clicking stopped directly outside the broken door. In the silence that followed, I heard something else, a sound like wet leather stretching, followed by shallow, ragged breathing that didn't sound quite human. A shadow darkened the doorway, blocking the moonlight that had been spilling through. Something was coming inside. I pressed myself flat against the wall behind the counter, praying the darkness would conceal me. The breathing sound grew louder, accompanied by the soft pad of feet on the debris-strewn floor. Not the heavy footfalls of a human or even a large animal, but something moving with deliberate, predatory grace. I covered my mouth to silence my own ragged breathing, my heart hammering so loudly I was certain it would give me away. Through a crack between the counter and wall, I caught glimpses of movement, an elongated shadow stretching across the floor, moving in a way that defied natural biomechanics. The thing paused near the center of the room, its head swiveling in an impossible arc as it scanned the darkness. In the dim moonlight filtering through the broken windows, I finally saw it clearly and immediately wished I hadn't. It had a humanoid shape, but wrong in every conceivable way. Its limbs were too long and jointed in extra places, allowing it to move in a disturbing spider-like crouch. The skin looked wrong, not fur or scales, but something that hung loosely in some places and stretched taut over protruding bones in others. Its face was the worst part. Almost human, but with a too-wide mouth filled with needle-like teeth, and eyes that reflected the moonlight with that same reddish glow I'd seen earlier. As it moved deeper into the store, I noticed something that sent fresh horror coursing through me. It was wearing scraps of clothing. Not animal hides, but actual human clothing. A torn sleeve here, what looked like part of a boot there. Most disturbing was what appeared to be a fresh scalp with strands of hair still attached, draped across one shoulder like a grotesque accessory. The creature paused again, lifting its head to scent the air, and I realized with sickening clarity what the old woman had meant about skinwalkers. This thing wore pieces of its victims, not just as trophies, but as part of its transformative magic. My foot brushed against something that clinked softly, a glass bottle hidden among the trash. The sound was barely audible to my ears, but the creature's head snapped toward the counter with unnatural speed. It dropped fully into a crouch, that horrible mouth opening wider than should be physically possible, emitting a sound that was part hiss, part growl. I knew I'd been discovered. In that moment of pure terror, my mind made a desperate calculation. The storage room behind me might have another exit, some back door that could offer escape. I lunged for the door to the storage area, fumbling with the knob as the creature let out a shriek that sounded disturbingly like laughter. The door gave way, and I tumbled through, slamming it shut behind me and dragging a fallen shelf in front of it. The room was pitch black except for faint moonlight filtering through a small, high window. As my eyes adjusted, I made out shapes in the darkness, shelves, boxes, and something else that made my heart leap. A door in the back wall. An escape route. Behind me, the creature slammed against the door, the wood splintering under impact. The shelf I'd placed as a barricade groaned, sliding a few inches across the floor. I wouldn't have much time. I stumbled toward the back door, hands outstretched in the darkness. My fingers closed around the doorknob, turning it desperately, but it didn't budge. Locked or jammed, it didn't matter which. I was trapped. Another crash behind me, louder this time. The creature would be through any second. Looking wildly around the storage room, I spotted my only chance, that small window near the ceiling, barely large enough for a person to squeeze through. I dragged a set of metal shelves beneath the window, the screech of metal on concrete coinciding with another crash against the door. As I climbed, the shelves swayed precariously beneath my weight. The window was stuck, years of desert dust cementing it in place. Behind me, wood splintered as clawed hands broke through the door. With desperate strength, I slammed my elbow against the window glass, shattering it. I brushed away the shards as best I could and began to squeeze through the narrow opening just as the storage room door finally gave way with a crack like a gunshot. Halfway through the window, glass shards cutting into my stomach, I felt something grab my leg. The pain was immediate and shocking, not just pressure but the distinct feeling of claws puncturing my calf muscle. I kicked wildly with my free leg, connecting with something solid. The grip loosened just enough for me to wrench myself forward, tearing through the window frame in a shower of glass and splintered wood. I hit the ground outside hard, rolling away from the building as fresh pain bloomed across my body. No time to assess injuries. I staggered to my feet, the world spinning sickeningly around me. About 50 yards away, the outline of pinyon trees marked the edge of a ravine. If I could reach it, maybe I could lose the creature in the rough terrain. I limped forward, each step sending lances of agony through my wounded leg. Behind me, I heard the creature scrabbling at the window, the frame too small for its misshapen body to pass through. It shrieked in frustration, the sound echoing across the empty landscape. The ravine was closer now, just 20 yards away. 15, 10. My vision blurred with pain and exhaustion, but freedom seemed within reach. Then I heard it, a sound that made my blood freeze. Not from behind me, but from ahead. The same clicking noise, coming from the darkness between the trees. I skidded to a halt, nearly collapsing as my injured leg buckled beneath me. There was more than one of them. Of course there was. And they'd been hurting me all along, driving me exactly where they wanted me to go. A figure emerged from the shadows of the pinyon trees, similar to the one in the store, but somehow larger, its movements more confident and controlled. In the moonlight, I could make out symbols painted or carved into its mottled skin, the same spiral patterns I'd seen on the rock walls. Behind me, the sound of breaking glass told me the first creature had finally forced its way through the window. I was caught between them, with nowhere left to run. The larger creature tilted its head, studying me with those terrible reflective eyes. Then, in a voice like stones grinding together, it spoke. "Photographer," it rasped, the word mangled but unmistakable. My blood turned to ice water in my veins. It knew what I was. Somehow it knew. "Your pictures," it continued, moving closer with that unnatural gait. "Show us." With horror, I realized it was asking for my camera, the camera that had captured images of their sacred site, their markings. The camera I'd left behind in my van. I raised my empty hands, trying to explain that I didn't have it, but the words died in my throat as the creature reached toward me with long, clawed fingers. That's when headlights suddenly illuminated the scene. A vehicle approaching fast along the road I hadn't even realized was nearby. The creatures hissed, shrinking back from the light. The vehicle, an old pickup truck that might have been the same one from earlier, skidded to a halt about 30 yards away. The driver's door flew open, and a voice shouted, "Run." Now, I didn't hesitate, summoning my last reserves of strength to sprint limp toward the truck. The creatures recovered quickly, moving to intercept me with horrifying speed. I was 10 yards from the truck when my injured leg finally gave out completely. I crashed to the ground, pain exploding through my body. Looking up, I saw the younger man from earlier leaning out the driver's window, revolver aimed past me. The gun roared, once, twice, 3 times. Behind me, one of the creatures screamed, a sound so human it made my skin crawl. Hands grabbed me, dragging me the final distance to the truck. It was the older man, his face grim and streaked with blood from a cut on his forehead. "Where's the old woman?" I gasped as he shoved me into the cab. "Dead," he said flatly, climbing in after me and slamming the door. "They took her when we crashed." The younger man was already accelerating, the engine roaring as we fishtailed away from the ravine. In the side mirror, I caught a final glimpse of the creatures, 3 of them now, standing in the road, watching our retreat. They made no attempt to follow. Somehow, that was more terrifying than if they had given chase. It suggested confidence, patience, the certainty that this wasn't over. We drove in tense silence for nearly an hour, eventually reaching a paved highway where other cars occasionally passed, the first signs of civilization since my ordeal began. My leg had been roughly bandaged with strips torn from the older man's shirt, but blood still seeped through the makeshift dressing. "We're taking you to a hospital in Santa Fe," the younger man finally said, his voice hoarse with exhaustion. "After that, you need to leave New Mexico. Go as far as you can. Never come back." "They'll follow me, won't they?" I asked, already knowing the answer. "You said they never lose a trail." The 2 men exchanged glances. "We're going to try something," the older man said finally. "A cleansing ritual. It might break the connection. Might not. Best chance you've got. He reached into his pocket and pulled out my memory cards, the ones from my camera that I'd left in the van. Found these when we went back for you. The images you took, they're connected to the skinwalkers now. We'll destroy them as part of the ritual. At the hospital, they dropped me at the emergency entrance with a small leather pouch containing herbs and stones. Wear this, the older man instructed. Don't take it off, not even to shower. Find a Navajo healer when you reach wherever you're going. Tell them what happened. They'll know what to do next. Before I could thank them or ask any more questions, they were gone, the pickup disappearing into the night. The doctors treated my injuries, asking questions I couldn't honestly answer. I claimed I'd been hiking and fallen down a ravine. They seemed skeptical but didn't press the issue. 3 days later, I was on a bus heading east, the leather pouch hanging around my neck, everything I now own contained in a single backpack purchased from the hospital gift shop. I called my parents, borrowed money for the bus ticket, told them I'd had an accident, lost everything, needed to come home for a while. They were worried but didn't ask too many questions. I'd deal with the full explanation later. Or maybe I never would. Some truths are too heavy to share. As the bus crossed the New Mexico state line into Texas, I finally allowed myself to relax slightly. Maybe the ritual had worked. Maybe I'd left the nightmare behind. Outside the window, the sun was rising, painting the landscape gold, so different from the terrifying darkness of 3 nights ago. I closed my eyes, exhaustion finally claiming me. In that space between wakefulness and sleep, I thought I heard it again, that soft clicking sound, just at the edge of perception. My eyes snapped open, heart racing as I searched the passing landscape for any sign of my pursuers. There was nothing there, of course, just road and desert and morning light. But as I settled back in my seat, trying to convince myself it had been imagination, my hand went unconsciously to the window glass. There, barely visible in the condensation from my breath, was a perfect handprint, not mine. The fingers were too long, too thin, splayed at impossible angles. And somewhere deep in my mind, I could have sworn I heard laughter, that same inhuman sound I'd heard in the abandoned store. I realized then what the old woman had tried to tell me. Some things, once awakened, never truly sleep again. And some trails, once found, stretch on forever. My name is Dahlia Mercer, and I'm 29 years old. After spending most of my adult life in Chicago working for a financial consulting firm, I decided I needed a radical change. The endless cycle of spreadsheets, client meetings, and office politics had slowly drained my soul. 6 months ago, I quit my job, liquidated my 401k, paying the penalty without regret, and bought a 2018 Ford Transit that I spent weeks converting into a cozy mobile home. The corporate world had taught me efficiency and attention to detail, skills that transferred surprisingly well to designing a functional living space in 120 square feet. The Transit isn't flashy, simple white exterior that blends in anywhere, solar panels flat against the roof, and blackout curtains that make it impossible to tell someone's inside. The interior is my sanctuary: warm cedar paneling, a pull-out queen bed, compact kitchen with a 2-burner stove, and a tiny bathroom with a composting toilet. I'd become part of the growing community of digital nomads, working remotely as a freelance financial analyst while exploring the country. My clients didn't need to know I was sending their reports from national forests instead of a downtown high-rise. I'd been on the road for 3 months, working my way southwest from Chicago through Colorado and into New Mexico. The land of enchantment had quickly captured my heart, with its stark beauty and mysterious landscapes. I'd spent a week in Taos, then headed south toward the small town of Las Vegas, New Mexico, not to be confused with its flashier Nevada namesake. This historic railroad town was supposedly filled with beautiful Victorian architecture and surrounded by stunning wilderness areas perfect for hiking and photography, my newfound pandemic hobby. It was late afternoon when I arrived in Las Vegas, the October sun casting long shadows across the historic plaza. After grabbing coffee at a local cafe and stretching my legs with a walk around the town square, I decided to find a place to park for the night. I'd gotten pretty good at stealth camping in urban areas, but preferred to find quieter spots when possible. A quick search on one of my Vanlife apps suggested a remote forest road near Hermit's Peak, about 30 minutes from town, where dispersed camping was allowed on national forest land. The drive up into the Sangre de Cristo Mountains was breathtaking, with pinyon and juniper giving way to ponderosa pines as I gained elevation. The forest road was rough but passable, winding deeper into increasingly remote territory. After about 4 miles, I found a perfect spot, a small clearing set back from the road with a view of the valley below. According to my app, there was a system of hiking trails nearby that led to an abandoned mining settlement, which sounded like an interesting excursion for the following day. As I set up camp, I noticed stone markers arranged in a rough circle at the edge of the clearing. They looked old, weathered by countless seasons, with faint carvings mostly eroded by time. I took a few photos, thinking they might be boundary markers from the mining days or perhaps something related to the region's Spanish colonial history. The setting sun illuminated them briefly, casting long shadows that seemed to point directly at my van. I found this curious, but didn't dwell on it. The light was creating all sorts of interesting patterns in the forest. After a simple dinner of pasta with vegetables, I sat outside with a glass of wine, enjoying the spectacular sunset and the profound silence of the forest. The only sounds were the occasional rustling of leaves in the gentle breeze and distant bird calls. As darkness fell completely, the stars emerged with astonishing clarity, the Milky Way stretching across the sky in a dazzling band. This was exactly why I'd left Chicago, moments of pure natural beauty that made the financial sacrifices and occasional discomforts of van life absolutely worthwhile. I was about to head inside when I noticed lights moving in the valley far below, not the steady headlights of cars on a road, but bobbing lights that seemed to be moving in a pattern through the forest. I grabbed my binoculars from the van and focused on the area. The lights appeared to be torches or lanterns, carried by a group of people moving in what looked like a procession. Strange. This wasn't exactly prime hiking territory at night, and the lights didn't follow any road or trail I could discern. Perhaps some kind of local festival or ceremony. New Mexico was known for its rich cultural traditions. Making a mental note to ask about it in town the next day, I locked up my van and crawled into bed, quickly falling asleep to the soothing sounds of the wilderness. A sound like scratching against metal jolted me awake sometime in the middle of the night. Disoriented, I fumbled for my phone to check the time, 2:17 a.m. The scratching came again, unmistakable this time, followed by what sounded like whispering just outside my van. My heart began to race as I lay perfectly still, straining to listen. Living alone in a van, you develop a keen awareness of unusual sounds. This wasn't the wind or branches against the roof. Something or someone was outside. Moving as quietly as possible, I slid toward the front cab of the van where I kept bear spray in the center console, useful for wildlife and, if necessary, the occasional human threat. The whispering continued, but strangely, I couldn't make out any distinct words despite how close it sounded. It was like listening to a radio station just out of range, the cadence of speech without comprehensible content. As I reached the driver's seat, I peered cautiously through a small gap in my window curtains. What I saw made my blood freeze. A figure stood directly outside my driver's side window, faced just inches from the glass, as if trying to peer inside. In the moonlight, I could make out dark clothing and what appeared to be some kind of full-face mask with odd protrusions, antlers or horns, rising from the top. My instinct was to recoil, but I forced myself to remain still, grateful for my blackout curtains. The figure couldn't possibly see me through them, yet somehow it seemed to be looking directly at me, head tilted at an unnatural angle. More disturbing was what I saw beyond this figure. At least 3 other similarly dressed people moving around my clearing, examining the stone markers I'd photographed earlier. They carried no lights, yet moved with confidence in the darkness. One was bent over, tracing the carvings on the stones with long, pale fingers. Another seemed to be sprinkling something in a circle around my van, some kind of powder or liquid that caught the moonlight as it fell. My mind raced through possibilities. Local teens playing pranks, some kind of cult activity, or perhaps a cultural ceremony I was inadvertently interrupting. The rational part of my brain said to stay put and wait for them to leave. The clearing was public land, after all, but something about their behavior, the deliberate movements, the whispering, The way they focused on my van triggered deep alarm bells. I needed to document this. Moving with excruciating slowness, I reached for my phone and switched it to camera mode, making sure the flash and sound were disabled. Through the gap in the curtains, I managed to take several photos of the figures moving around the clearing. Reviewing the images immediately, my confusion deepened. Where I'd clearly seen 4 distinct people, the photos showed only strange, elongated shadows stretching across the clearing. In one image, what appeared to be the antlered figure was just a blur of motion, as if moving too quickly for the camera to capture despite having stood motionless when I took the photo. Something was very wrong here. Whatever rational explanation I'd been trying to cling to began to dissolve. The whispering suddenly stopped. In the silence that followed, I heard a new sound that turned my skin to ice, sniffing, like an animal tracking a scent, directly outside my window. A low voice spoke, clearer than the whispers. "She is watching." The words were perfectly distinct, spoken in English, but with an accent I couldn't place. Ancient sounding, with consonants that seemed to catch and drag. I dropped down below the dashboard, clutching the bare spray, my heart pounding so loudly I was certain they could hear it. A sharp rap on the window made me flinch. Then another. Not the casual knock of someone trying to get my attention, but something harder, more insistent. The entire van shook slightly as something heavy leaned against it. I heard the metal roof dent inward, as if under significant weight. Whatever was on my van was too heavy to be a person. The logical part of my brain, the financial analyst who believed in spreadsheets and data, was screaming that none of this made sense. Yet the primal part of me that responded to danger knew with certainty that I needed to get out of there immediately. I scrambled into the driver's seat, hands shaking as I inserted the key into the ignition. The engine roared to life, headlights cutting through the darkness to reveal nothing. The clearing was empty. No antlered figures, no people examining stone markers. Just the silent forest and those ancient stones, their shadows now pointing away from my van in the headlight beams. Had I dreamed the whole thing? A quick glance at my phone confirmed the photos I'd taken, still showing only incomprehensible shadows where people should have been. My racing heart and the cold sweat on my skin told me that whatever had happened was real, even if it defied explanation. I put the van in gear, determined to get back to the safety of town, even in the middle of the night. The forest road seemed different in the darkness, narrower and more winding than I remembered from the drive-in. My headlights caught flashes of movement in the trees, probably nocturnal animals startled by my vehicle. The van lurched over ruts and rocks, the suspension groaning in protest at my speed. I was driving too fast for these conditions, but the pressing need to put distance between myself and that clearing overrode caution. Every few seconds, I checked my rearview mirror, half expecting to see headlights or torches following me. There was only darkness. 10 minutes into my escape, the engine suddenly sputtered, the dashboard lights flickering momentarily before stabilizing. A warning light flashed, something with the electrical system. Impossible. I'd had the van thoroughly checked before my trip, and the battery was practically new. The headlights dimmed, brightened, then dimmed again, making the forest ahead appear to pulse ominously. My knuckles whitened on the steering wheel as I willed the vehicle to keep going, at least until I reached the main road. The radio turned itself on, blasting static at full volume. I jabbed at the power button, but it had no effect. Through the static, I could hear fragments of what sounded like the same whispering from earlier, occasionally punctuated by words in English: stop, return, hours. I tried to convince myself it was just interference, my stressed mind imposing patterns on random noise. But when a voice clearly said Dahlia, my full name that I hadn't shared with anyone in this area, the last of my skepticism shattered. Something impossible was happening. I rounded a sharp curve, and my heart nearly stopped. Standing in the middle of the road, illuminated by my fading headlights, was a figure wearing what I now could clearly see wasn't a mask at all. The antlers protruded from an elongated, inhuman head with features that seemed to shift and change as I watched. It stood unnaturally tall and thin, at least 7 feet high, draped in what looked like animal hides and adorned with small bones that clicked together as it raised a hand toward my vehicle. Its fingers were too long, too jointed, ending in points that looked more like claws than human nails. Pure instinct took over. I slammed on the brakes. wrenching the steering wheel to avoid hitting the figure. The van skidded on the loose gravel, tipping precariously as the right wheels left the road. For a sickening moment, I thought it might roll over, but it crashed back onto all four wheels, now perpendicular to the road and half in a ditch. The impact threw me against my seatbelt hard enough to knock the wind from my lungs. The engine stalled, plunging me into silence broken only by the ticking of the cooling engine and my own ragged breathing. Through the windshield, I could see the figure still standing in the road, now joined by others emerging from the trees. They moved with an unsettling grace, not quite walking but gliding across the ground. The static on the radio grew louder, resolving into that same whispering I'd heard in the clearing. My hands trembled as I tried to restart the engine, turning the key repeatedly as the starter motor whined but failed to catch. The headlights were fading rapidly, the battery draining at an impossible rate. In the dying light, I could see the figures approaching my van, spreading out to surround it. The leader, the antlered one I'd nearly hit, raised its arms in a gesture that might have been religious or might have been threatening. The others began to chant in a language I'd never heard, voices harmonizing in a way that made my teeth ache and my vision blur. I grabbed my phone to call for help, but there was no signal, not surprising this deep in the forest. I tried to take a video instead, thinking that at least I could document whatever was happening. The phone died in my hand, the screen going black despite being fully charged. The headlights gave one final flicker and went out completely, leaving me in darkness with only the faint moonlight filtering through the trees. I could still see the silhouettes of the figures surrounding my van, their shapes seeming to grow more distorted and less human as my eyes adjusted to the darkness. One approached the driver's side door, pressing what should have been a face against my window. In the moonlight, I could see that its features were arranged all wrong. Eyes too wide and set at odd angles, mouth stretching across too much of its face. It wasn't wearing animal hides as I'd thought. The texture of its skin simply changed in patches, from smooth to rough to what looked disturbingly like fur. A sound like fingernails on glass made me flinch as the creature traced symbols on my window. Not random scratches, but deliberate patterns that matched the carvings on the stones in the clearing. The others had begun a rhythmic tapping on the roof, sides, and hood of the van, gradually increasing in tempo until it sounded like rain. Except rain didn't follow patterns or create harmonies that made your skull vibrate. I was trapped, surrounded by things that defied rational explanation, with no way to call for help and nowhere to run. My van, my home, my safety had become a cage. The tapping stopped abruptly, replaced by a silence so complete it felt like pressure against my eardrums. The figure at my window stepped back, joining the others in a semicircle in front of the van. They stood perfectly still, their strange profiles etched against the night sky. Then, as if responding to some signal I couldn't perceive, they began to sway in unison, their movements fluid, yet somehow mechanical. The antlered one raised something to its mouth, a crude flute or whistle made of bone. The sound it produced wasn't musical, but a keening wail that made my skin crawl and my vision swim. It was doing something to me, to my mind. The world began to tilt and swirl, colors bleeding into the darkness that shouldn't have been possible at night. I felt a terrible lethargy creeping through my limbs, an almost irresistible urge to unlock my door and step outside. Part of me, a diminishing, rational part, recognized this as a form of hypnosis or hallucination, but that knowledge was becoming increasingly difficult to hold on to. I bit down hard on my lower lip, using pain to anchor myself to reality. The coppery taste of blood helped clear my head momentarily, enough to formulate a desperate plan. My van was half in a ditch, but the front was still on the road, pointing downhill. If I could get it started using the slope, I might be able to escape. I switched the ignition to accessory mode, confirming my suspicion that the battery wasn't completely dead, just drained to the point where it couldn't start the engine. Keeping low in my seat to avoid being seen, I released the parking brake and shifted into neutral. Nothing happened at first. The grade wasn't steep enough for the van's weight. I needed more. Bracing myself, I rocked forward in my seat, then slammed my body backward, using my weight to create momentum. The van groaned, shifting slightly. I did it again, harder this time. The vehicle creaked, then began to roll forward with agonizing slowness. Outside, the creatures stopped their swaying, heads turning in perfect unison to track the movement. The antlered one lowered its flute, making a sound like stones grinding together that might have been speech. They knew what I was trying to do. The van was moving now, gradually picking up speed as it rolled downhill. I gripped the steering wheel, ready to turn the key the moment I had enough momentum for a push start. The creatures were moving too, keeping pace with the van on either side, their long limbs covering ground with unnatural ease. One leapt onto the hood, its weight causing the front end to dip alarmingly. It wasn't human, couldn't be human, with its elongated limbs and torso that seemed to bend in impossible places. Through the windshield, its eyes locked with mine. Not animal eyes, not human eyes, but something ancient and cold and hungry. With the creature's weight on the hood, the van picked up speed rapidly, careening down the forest road fast enough that branches slapped against the windows. I cranked the steering wheel, struggling to keep the vehicle centered on the narrow track. The creature maintained its position, those terrible eyes never leaving mine. When the speedometer passed 20 miles per hour, I turned the key and popped the clutch. The engine groaned, caught, then roared to life. The headlights blazed on, momentarily blinding the creature, which reared back with a shriek that sounded like metal tearing. I slammed on the brakes while simultaneously spinning the wheel, executing a maneuver that sent the van into a controlled skid. The sudden movement dislodged the creature from the hood. Through my side mirror, I watched it tumble across the road in a tangle of two long limbs before regaining its footing with unnatural agility. I didn't wait to see more. Shifting into first gear, I floored the accelerator, the tires spinning briefly before finding purchase on the gravel. The van shot forward, engine screaming in protest at the abuse. In my rearview mirror, I could see the creatures giving chase, moving with a speed that shouldn't have been possible, eating up the distance between us with bounding strides that covered yards at a time. The antlered one was in the lead, those strange protrusions from its head now looking more like a crown of bones than deer antlers. It raised one impossibly long arm, pointing directly at me, and I felt rather than heard a command reverberate through my body. Return. My hands involuntarily jerked on the steering wheel, as if my own body were betraying me. Fighting for control of both vehicle and mind, I rounded another curve in the road and saw salvation. The paved highway less than a quarter mile ahead, its asphalt gleaming in the moonlight. Civilization, other cars, safety. I pushed the van to its limit, the engine temperature gauge creeping into the red zone as I demanded more speed than the vehicle was designed to give. The distance to the highway shrank rapidly, but the creatures were still gaining, now just yards behind the rear bumper. I could hear them, a sound like heavy breathing mixed with that stone-grinding speech, carried on the wind through my partially open window. The antlered one made one final, impossible leap, landing on the roof of the van with enough force to dent the metal inward. Long fingers punched through the roof liner inches from my head. I screamed, swerving wildly as claws raked through the thin barrier, reaching for me. The highway was just ahead, tantalizingly close. With one hand on the wheel, I grabbed the bear spray from the console with the other, aiming it upward at the hole being torn in my roof. When those grotesque fingers pushed through again, I pressed the button, filling the van's interior with the caustic spray. A shriek like nothing I'd ever heard, not animal, not human, tore through the night. The creature thrashed on the roof, nearly causing me to lose control as the van fishtailed onto the highway. In my rearview mirror, I saw it finally fall away, tumbling across the asphalt in a tangle of limbs and shadow. The others stopped at the edge of the forest, their forms gradually fading into the darkness as I accelerated down the empty highway. I didn't slow down until I saw the lights of Las Vegas in the distance, my hands shaking so badly I could barely keep them on the wheel. I didn't stop in Las Vegas. Some irrational fear told me I wasn't far enough away, that those things could still find me in the small town. Instead, I drove straight through to Santa Fe, the largest nearby city, arriving as dawn was breaking over the Sangre de Cristo Mountains. The van was a mess, deep scratches across the roof and hood, the ceiling liner hanging in tatters, and a pervasive odor of bear spray that made my eyes water. I found a 24-hour diner on the outskirts of town and collapsed into a booth, ordering coffee with hands that wouldn't stop trembling. The waitress, a middle-aged woman with kind eyes, took one look at me, and added a slice of pie to my order on the house. I must have looked like a wreck, still wearing my sleep clothes, hair wild, eyes red from the spray and lack of sleep. When she asked if I was okay, I mumbled something about hitting a deer on the highway. It was easier than trying to explain what had really happened. While waiting for my coffee, I examined the photos on my phone, still just shadows where people should have been. The only evidence of my encounter was the damage to my van and the lingering terror that made my chest tight. After 3 cups of coffee and a sunrise that finally convinced me I'd survive the night, I checked into a motel on the other side of town. I needed real walls around me, not the thin metal shell of my van that had proven so penetrable. Once inside the anonymous room, I immediately headed for the shower, desperate to wash away the night's events. As the hot water ran over me, I noticed something that hadn't been visible in the dim light of the diner. Marks on my arms and legs, like bruises but strangely patterned. They formed spirals and angular shapes that matched the carvings I'd seen on the stone markers in the clearing. My stomach lurched at the implications. I hadn't just been attacked, I'd been marked. Sleep was impossible despite my exhaustion. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw those creatures surrounding my van, moving with that unnatural grace. Instead, I spent hours researching on my laptop, searching for anything that might explain what I'd encountered. Native American legends, local folklore, unexplained phenomena in northern New Mexico. All of it led me down increasingly disturbing paths. The Dine, Navajo, beliefs about skinwalkers, Hispanic tales of brujas, ancient Pueblo spirits that guarded sacred sites. None of them perfectly matched what I'd seen, but all contained elements that resonated uncomfortably with my experience. Most disturbing was what I found about Las Vegas, New Mexico itself. The area had a disproportionate number of missing persons cases dating back decades. Many involved travelers or hikers who had ventured into the surrounding wilderness and never returned. Several accounts mentioned strange symbols found carved into trees or rocks near the person's last known location. A local news article from 3 years ago described a hiker who had been found wandering on Highway 65, the same road I'd escaped onto, babbling about people who weren't people and antlers that moved. He had been hospitalized for acute psychosis and died 3 days later from what the doctors described as rapid cellular degeneration of unknown origin. By afternoon, the strange bruise-like markings on my skin had darkened and begun to itch fiercely. I tried everything: antihistamines, hydrocortisone cream, cold compresses, but nothing provided relief. When I finally examined them under the harsh bathroom lights, I realized with horror that they weren't just becoming more visible, they were spreading. What had started as faint patterns on my arms and legs now extended across my torso in an intricate network of symbols. My rational mind suggested an allergic reaction, perhaps to something in the forest, but my gut knew better. This was connected to those creatures, to their strange ritual around my van. I needed help beyond what conventional medicine could provide. After another hour of research, I found what I was looking for: a Navajo healer named Thomas Begay, who worked at a cultural center in Santa Fe. The website mentioned his expertise in traditional healing practices and cleansing rituals for spiritual disturbances. It was a long shot, but I was running out of options as the markings continued to spread and the itching intensified to a burning sensation. I called the number listed, relieved when a receptionist answered, and even more relieved when she said Thomas could see me that evening due to a cancellation. The cultural center was located in an adobe building on the outskirts of town, surrounded by gardens of native plants. Thomas was an elderly man with deep lines etched into his face and alert eyes that widened slightly when I rolled up my sleeve to show him the markings. He listened without interruption as I told him everything, not editing out the impossible parts. When I finished, he nodded slowly, as if I had merely confirmed something he already knew. "You encountered the Ant-Ii-Dayinii," he said quietly. "The holy dancers. Most people call them skinwalkers, but that's not quite right. They're older, from before my people came to this land." Thomas explained that the stone circle I'd found wasn't a boundary marker, but a doorway, a thin place between our world and theirs that became active during certain celestial alignments. October was one such time. "They mark those they choose," he said, gently tracing the patterns on my arm without touching them. "For the dance. a gathering where they feed on the essence of the living to maintain their form in our world. His eyes met mine, grave and sympathetic. They rarely lose what they consider theirs. You were fortunate to escape it all. The cleansing ritual took hours, purifying smoke, prayers in Navajo, the application of a paste made from herbs that stung my skin but provided the first relief from the burning sensation I'd felt all day. As night fell, Thomas became increasingly agitated, checking his watch and glancing toward the windows. "We need to finish," he said, his movements becoming more urgent. "They are stronger after sunset. They will be looking for you." I wanted to believe this was superstition, but after what I'd seen, I couldn't dismiss his concerns. The markings on my skin had begun to pulse in time with my heartbeat, visible even through the herbal paste. It was nearly midnight when Thomas declared the ritual complete. The markings had faded to almost nothing, and the burning sensation had subsided. I felt lightheaded but immensely relieved as I thanked him and offered payment. He refused the money, instead pressing a small leather pouch into my hand. "Protection," he explained. "Wear it always. And leave New Mexico tonight. Drive east, cross the border before dawn. Don't stop until you reach Oklahoma at least." I nodded, too exhausted to argue and frankly too terrified to do anything but follow his instructions. Back at the motel, I quickly packed my few belongings, paid my bill, and headed to my van in the parking lot. The night was clear and cold, stars brilliant in the black sky. As I approached my vehicle, I noticed something that stopped me in my tracks. Small handprints in the dust on the windows, too small for an adult, but with fingers unnaturally long and jointed. They hadn't been there when I parked. My hands shook as I unlocked the door, throwing my bag inside and scrambling into the driver's seat. The engine started immediately, which I took as a good sign. I would follow Thomas's advice, drive east until I was far from New Mexico and whatever ancient forces I'd inadvertently disturbed. I was on I-25 heading toward the Texas border when I first noticed the headlights behind me, a single vehicle maintaining the same distance despite my changes in speed. A chill ran down my spine as I recalled the creature's unnatural persistence. Surely they couldn't drive cars? The rational part of my brain suggested it was just another traveler, perhaps even a state trooper. To test the theory, I took the next exit, a desolate ramp leading to an empty rural road. The headlights followed. I accelerated, pushing my van to its limits on the straight stretch of road. The lights kept pace effortlessly. Fear gave way to determination. I wouldn't be hunted. Gripping the steering wheel, I executed a sudden U-turn, bracing for impact as I faced the oncoming vehicle. The headlights blinded me momentarily as they drew closer, slowing to a stop about 50 feet away. It wasn't a car or truck as I'd expected, but something that only approximated a vehicle, a shape that wavered and shifted in my headlights like heat mirages on summer asphalt. As I watched in horror, it began to change, elongating and splitting into multiple forms that resolved into the now familiar silhouettes of the creatures from the forest. They approached slowly, confidently, the antlered one in the lead. Its antlers were more elaborate now, branching impossibly in ways that hurt my eyes to look at directly. The leather pouch Thomas had given me grew warm against my chest, and the protection it offered gave me courage. I wouldn't run anymore. Reaching under my seat, I grabbed the tire iron I kept for emergencies and stepped out of the van. "Leave me alone," I shouted, brandishing the makeshift weapon. "I'm not yours to take." The antlered creature stopped, tilting its head at an angle no human neck could achieve. When it spoke, the sound seemed to bypass my ears and resonate directly in my mind. "You bear our mark. You opened the door. The debt must be paid." The others began to spread out, moving to surround me as they had the van the previous night. I clutched the protective pouch with my free hand, remembering Thomas's words about their persistence. They wouldn't stop, ever, unless a desperate idea formed in my mind, not an escape, but a resolution. These things operated by rules, ancient and inhuman, but rules nonetheless. Debts, doorways, marks. Moving deliberately, I walked to the front of my van, keeping my eyes on the approaching creatures. "You want payment?" I called out. "Here it is. My home. My sanctuary. Everything I own." I placed my hand on the hood of the van, feeling the warmth of the engine beneath. "A fair trade, this for my freedom. Release me from your mark, and it's yours." The antlered one made that stone-grinding sound again, conferring with the others in their incomprehensible language. They seemed to be considering my offer. The leather pouch grew hotter against my skin, almost painfully so. I didn't know if Thomas had anticipated this moment, this negotiation, but I sensed the pouch was somehow strengthening my position. Finally, the creature approached, extending one of those terrible hands with too many joints. Agreement, it said in my mind. You're offering for your essence. The mark will pass to your dwelling. I hesitated only briefly before reaching out, not quite touching those elongated fingers, but close enough to feel a cold so intense it burned. The markings on my skin flared with sudden pain, then began to flow like liquid, streaming down my arms and legs toward the ground, leaving my skin unmarked in their wake. They pulled briefly at my feet before snaking across the asphalt toward my van. As they made contact with the metal, the entire vehicle shuddered. The creatures moved forward eagerly, surrounding the van, placing their hands against its surface as the markings spread across it like a dark infection. I backed away slowly, then turned and ran, not looking back even when I heard metal groaning and tearing behind me. I ran until my lungs burned and my legs threatened to give out, finally collapsing on the side of the road miles from where I'd left my van. As the eastern horizon began to lighten with approaching dawn, a truck driver spotted me and stopped, concerned about a lone woman on an empty road before sunrise. He drove me to the nearest town, asking no questions about my disheveled appearance or lack of possessions. 3 months later, I've rebuilt my life. A small apartment in Tulsa, a job that doesn't quite utilize my financial skills but pays the bills, and therapy sessions that carefully skirt around the true nature of my traumatic carjacking in New Mexico. Sometimes I see reports of strange sightings in the Southwest, a white van that appears on remote roads at night, stopping to offer rides to stranded travelers who are never seen again. The descriptions vary, but certain elements remain consistent. The driver's unusually long fingers gripping the steering wheel, strange carvings in the vehicle's paint that seem to shift when viewed directly, and antler-like protrusions visible through the windshield that couldn't possibly fit inside a normal vehicle. I know what I traded that night, and the price others are paying for my freedom. Some days the guilt is overwhelming. Other days, I convince myself it was just a psychotic episode triggered by stress and isolation, that there are no creatures wearing human shapes, no ancient forces hungry for human essence. But then I'll catch a glimpse of a white van in my rearview mirror, or wake from dreams where I'm driving endless roads with hands that aren't my own, and I know the truth. Some debts are merely transferred, never truly paid. And somewhere in New Mexico, the holy dancers continue their eternal hunt, wearing my former home like a skin as they search for new marks to claim. Dust swirls across the cracked pavement as I ease my van into a deserted lot on the edge of Albuquerque. I'm Juniper Caldwell, 29 years old, from Flagstaff, Arizona. The van's my home, converted with a bed, a tiny stove, and shelves crammed with books and canned beans. Tonight, I'm parked near an abandoned gas station, its faded sign creaking in the wind. I've been chasing freedom on the road for 2 years, but New Mexico's got this eerie vibe that's already making my skin crawl. The sun's dipping low, painting the sky blood red, and I'm bone tired after driving all day. I just want to cook some ramen and crash. I lock the van's doors, double-checking the latches. My buddy Theo, who I met at a Vanlife meetup in Colorado, warned me about Albuquerque. Weird stuff happens there, he said, half joking. Theo's a lanky guy with a beard that's more bird's nest than grooming choice. He's not here, but his words stick with me. I shake it off and light my propane stove. The hiss of the flames comforting, like a tiny piece of normal in this creepy lot. Outside, the desert stretches endless, dotted with scrub and shadows that seem to shift when I'm not looking. I slurp my noodles, scrolling through my phone. No signal, figures. I'm used to being off-grid, but tonight, the silence feels heavy, almost horror movie heavy. I laugh at myself, trying to break the tension. Juniper, you've watched too many slasher flicks. Still, I pull the curtains tight over the van's windows. The lot's empty, but I can't shake the feeling something's out there, watching. Maybe it's just the isolation messing with my head. Van life's usually chill, but tonight, it's got a disturbing edge. I dig out my journal to jot down the day's miles. Writing keeps me grounded. Back in Flagstaff, I was a barista, stuck in a grind I hated. This van's my escape, my middle finger to that life. But as I scribble, a faint tap-tap comes from the van's side. I freeze, pen hovering. Probably a branch, right? Except there's no tree nearby. My heart's thudding now, and I strain to listen. Nothing. Just the wind, I tell myself. But the tap felt deliberate, like someone testing if I'm awake. I set the journal down and grab my flashlight. It's one of those heavy ones, doubles as a club if needed. Not that I've ever needed it, but you don't live on the road without some paranoia. I flick the light on, aiming it at the curtained window. The beam shakes a little. Okay, I'm spooked. I tell myself it's nothing, just the desert playing tricks. But Albuquerque's got a rep for being rough, and I'm alone out here. I turn the stove off, the sudden quiet making the van feel like a tomb. I crawl into my sleeping bag, trying to focus on the familiar creak of the van's frame. Sleep's what I need. Tomorrow, I'll hit a coffee shop, maybe meet some locals. I've got a knack for finding friendly faces. Last week in Santa Fe, I swapped stories with a guy who claimed he saw a UFO. Harmless, quirky stuff. But as I close my eyes, that tap-tap echoes in my mind. It's probably nothing, I repeat, like a mantra. Still, I keep the flashlight close, its weight a small comfort. The van's cozy, but tonight, it feels too small, like the walls are closing in. I think about Theo again, his warning about weird stuff. He mentioned something about Albuquerque's history, missing people, old crimes. I brushed it off then, but now it's nagging at me. I pull my sleeping bag tighter, trying to drown out the creeping dread. The desert's quiet, but it's a scary kind of quiet, the kind that hides things. I tell myself I'm overreacting, but my gut's screaming otherwise. I glance at my phone again, still no bars. If something happens, I'm on my own. That's the deal with van life. Freedom comes with risks. I've handled flat tires, sketchy rest stops, even a rattlesnake once. But this feels different, more disturbing. I try to laugh it off. Juniper, you're freaking out over a noise. But as I drift toward sleep, I can't shake the sense that something's waiting outside, patient and hungry. I jerk awake, heart racing. No tap this time, just a feeling, like the air's thicker, charged with something wrong. I lie still, listening, but all I hear is my own breathing. The van's dark, the curtains blocking any moonlight. I grip the flashlight, telling myself it's just nerves. But deep down, I know something's off. Something horror level off. I just don't know what yet. Morning light seeps through the van's curtains, but I'm already awake, clutching my flashlight like it's a lifeline. I barely slept, that tap-tap from last night still gnawing at me. I crawl out of my sleeping bag, my back stiff from the thin mattress. The air in the van's stale, and my stomach's growling. Ramen's not exactly a breakfast of champions. I peek through the curtain. The lot's still empty, the abandoned gas station looking even sadder in daylight. But something's off. There's a smudge on the van's side, like a handprint in the dust. My heart skips. Did I miss that yesterday? I pull on my boots and step outside, the desert air sharp and cold. The handprint's real, smeared across the van's paint. It's too big to be mine, the fingers long and thin. My first thought's vandalism, kids, maybe? But this lot's in the middle of nowhere. I glance around, half expecting someone to pop out, but it's just me and the scrub. The print's disturbing, like a message I don't understand. I grab a rag and wipe it off, but my hands are shaking. Juniper, chill, I tell myself. It's probably nothing. Back inside, I fire up the stove for coffee. The routine helps, but my mind's racing. I need to decide, stay here another night or move on. Albuquerque's got cool spots, cafes, murals, but this lot's giving me horror vibes. I dig out my map, an old school one I bought in Flagstaff. There's a state park nearby, maybe safer. But my van's low on gas, and my wallet's thinner than I'd like. I could hit a gas station, but that means driving into the city, and I'm not feeling social after last night. I sip my coffee, burning my tongue. Stupid mistake, but it snaps me out of my spiral. I think about Theo again. He'd probably laugh, tell me I'm paranoid. Desert's full of ghosts, he said once, grinning. I wish he was here. His dumb jokes would make this less scary. Instead, I'm alone, second-guessing every choice. I check my phone, still no signal. That's another problem. If I stay off-grid, I'm cut off. If I head to town, I risk parking somewhere sketchier than this. I step outside again, scanning the ground for clues. That's when I see it. A cigarette, but near the van's rear tire. I don't smoke, and it wasn't there yesterday. My stomach twists. Someone was here, close enough to touch my van. The butt's fresh, the paper barely weathered. It's still burning. This is no random litter. This is deliberate, a sign something's wrong. I kick it away, but it's too late. The horror's creeping closer, and I'm not imagining it anymore. I climb back into the van, locking the doors. My hands are clammy, and my coffee's gone cold. I try to think logically. Maybe it's just a drifter, someone passing through. But Albuquerque's got stories. Missing hikers, bodies found in the desert. I read about a case last year, some guy vanishing near here, never found. I shake my head, trying to focus. I need a plan, not ghost stories. But the cigarette feels like a warning, something scary and personal. I grab my keys, ready to bolt, but then I notice the van's battery light flickering. Shit, I forgot to charge it yesterday. Starting the engine's a risk. If it dies, I'm stuck. I curse myself for not checking sooner. This is on me, a dumb mistake that could screw me over. I try the ignition, and the van sputters but starts. Relief washes over me, but it's short-lived. I'm low on gas, and now the battery's iffy. Every decision feels like a trap. I pull out of the lot, the van rattling over the uneven ground. The handprint and cigarette are screaming at me to leave, but I'm torn. Town means people, maybe safety, but also more unknowns. The state park's quieter, but if my van dies, I'm stranded. My gut's telling me to run, but I'm not sure where's safe. As I hit the highway, I glance in the rearview mirror. A pickup truck's behind me, too close for comfort. It's probably nothing, but my heart's pounding. Something's out there, and it's not just my imagination. The truck peels off, and I exhale, but the tension's still there. I'm driving blind. No phone signal, no clear plan. The desert stretches around me, vast and empty, but it doesn't feel empty. It feels like it's watching, waiting for me to screw up. I grip the wheel tighter, my knuckles white. Whatever's happening, it's just getting started, and I'm already in deeper than I realized. The highway hums under my tires as I head toward a gas station I spotted on the map, just outside Albuquerque. My van's battery light is still flickering, and the gas gauge is flirting with empty. I'm rattled, the cigarette butt and handprint looping in my mind like a horror movie I can't pause. The desert's too quiet, the kind of quiet that screams something's wrong. I keep checking my mirrors, half expecting that pickup truck to reappear. Nothing yet, but my nerves are shot. I just need gas, a charge, and a new place to park, somewhere less creepy. I pull into the gas station, a rundown joint with a flickering neon sign. The clerk, a guy with a name tag reading Rico, barely looks up from his phone. I prepay for gas, my hands fumbling with crumpled bills. Outside, I pump fuel, the nozzles click-click steadying me. But as I glance across the lot, I see it. A man leaning against a rusted sedan, staring right at me. He's wiry, wearing a faded jacket, his face shadowed by a baseball cap. My stomach drops. He's not moving, just watching, and it's scary as hell. I finish pumping and climb into the van, locking the doors fast. The man's still there, now lighting a cigarette. My heart's hammering, cigarette, like the one by my van. Is this him? I tell myself I'm jumping to conclusions, but his stare feels like a blade. I start the engine, ready to peel out, but Rico bangs on my window. I yelp, nearly dropping my keys. "You forgot your change," he shouts, holding out a few bucks. I crack the window, snatch the money, and mutter a thanks. My eyes dart back to the man. He's gone. I pull onto the road, my pulse racing. The sedan's nowhere in sight, but I'm not relieved. Something's clearly wrong, and it's not just paranoia. I decide to skip the state park, too isolated. Instead, I aim for a Walmart lot in Albuquerque. It's public, lit up, safer. But as I drive, my van starts coughing, the engine stuttering. I curse my luck. The battery's dying, and I'm still miles from town. I spot a dirt pull out ahead and ease into it, praying the van holds out. It doesn't. The engine cuts off, leaving me stranded. I slam my hands on the wheel, frustration mixing with fear. The desert's dark now, stars sharp overhead. I try my phone, still no signal. I'm alone, no one around for miles, and that man's face is burned into my brain. I grab my flashlight, checking the van's locks again. That's when I hear it. A low whistle, faint but deliberate, coming from the scrub. My blood runs cold. It's not an animal. It's human, and it's close. The sound's disturbing, like a taunt, and I'm frozen, gripping the flashlight. I flick the flashlight on, aiming it out the window. The beam catches nothing but dirt and cactus. The whistle stops, replaced by silence that's somehow worse. My mind races. Albuquerque's got its share of urban legends, like La Llorona or skinwalkers. Theo told me about skinwalkers once, half drunk, saying they mimic voices to lure people. I laughed it off then, but now it's not funny. This feels like something out of a horror story, and I'm the idiot who parked in the wrong place. I crawl to the back of the van, peering through the rear window. Nothing moves, but the darkness feels alive, heavy with intent. I think about that man at the gas station. Was he following me? Did he see me break down? My van's a sitting duck, and I'm trapped inside. I consider running, but to where? The nearest light's miles away, and I'd be exposed. My best bet's staying put, hoping the van starts by morning. But the whistle starts again, closer now, and it's not random. It's circling. I huddle in my sleeping bag, trying to stay calm. My flashlight's beam shakes as I sweep it across the windows. I tell myself it's just some creep messing with me, but deep down, I know it's more. The whistling's got a rhythm, almost like a song, and it's terrifying. I think about mistakes I've made. Parking in that lot, not charging the battery, ignoring Theo's warning. Each one's led me here, to this moment, where something's hunting me. I clutch my knife, a small one I keep for emergencies. It feels useless now. The whistling stops, and I hold my breath, waiting. Then, a scrape, metal on metal, right outside the van. It's slow, deliberate, like someone dragging a blade along the side. My heart's in my throat, and I can't move. This isn't a prank. This is real, and it's happening now. Something's out there, and it's not human, or if it is, it's worse. The scrape stops, and I hear footsteps, heavy and uneven, circling the van. I'm trapped, and whatever's out there knows it. The scraping stops, but the footsteps keep circling, slow and deliberate. My heart's pounding so hard I can barely think. I'm curled in the back of my van, knife in one hand, flashlight in the other, praying the locks hold. The desert's pitch black outside, and that whistle starts again, low and mocking. It's a horror show out there, and I'm the main character who's about to make a dumb move. I can't stay here, trapped like a rat. I need to run, but the thought of stepping outside is terrifying. My van's dead, no signal, no help. It's me against whatever's stalking me. I take a shaky breath and crawl to the driver's seat, keeping low. The footsteps pause, like they know I'm moving. My hands tremble as I check the ignition. Maybe the van will start. I turn the key. Nothing but a weak click. Shit. My eyes dart to the side mirror, and I see him. The man from the gas station, his cap low, standing just beyond the flashlight's reach. He's holding something long, maybe a crowbar. My stomach lurches. This is real, and it's life or death. I've got to get out now. I grab my backpack, stuffing in water, my phone, and the knife. The van's a coffin if I stay. I ease the side door open, wincing at the faint creak. The footsteps start again, faster, crunching closer. My pulse is deafening. I slip out, crouching low, and sprint toward the scrub. The desert's freezing, thorns snagging my jeans, but I don't care. I hear a shout behind me. Harsh, guttural, not quite human. It's scary as hell, and I run faster, my flashlight beam bouncing wildly. I'm not looking back. I weave through cacti, my lungs burning. The shouting fades, but I don't slow down. I'm aiming for the highway, hoping for a car, a truck, anything. My mind's racing with Albuquerque stories, skinwalkers, serial killers. There was a case in the 90s, bodies dumped in the desert, never solved. Is this guy one of them? My foot catches on a rock, and I stumble, scraping my palms. The pain's sharp, but I'm up in a second. I can't stop. The whistling's back, faint but closer than I'd like. I spot a ditch ahead and dive into it, heart hammering. I kill the flashlight, praying the darkness hides me. My breathing's too loud, and I clamp a hand over my mouth. Footsteps crunch nearby, slow and searching. I peek over the edge and see him, his silhouette against the stars. He's sniffing the air like a damn animal. It's disturbing, unnatural. My knife feels useless against whatever he is. I think of Theo, his skinwalker stories. I didn't believe him, but now I'm not so sure. The man moves past, and I wait, counting seconds. My legs ache, but I can't stay here. I crawl out, keeping low, and head toward a faint glow, maybe the highway. Every rustle makes me flinch, expecting him to lunge. I'm making mistakes, I know, running blind, no plan, but stopping's not an option. The glow grows brighter, and I hear an engine. Relief hits, but it's short-lived. Headlights sweep the desert, and I freeze. Is it help or him? I duck behind a boulder, watching a truck slow down. It's not the sedan, but I'm too spooked to trust it. The driver steps out, a flashlight scanning the scrub. "Anyone there?" he calls. His voice sounds normal, but I'm not falling for it. I've seen enough horror flicks to know better. I stay hidden, my knife ready. The man lingers, then drives off. I exhale, but the whistling's back, closer now. He's still out there, hunting me. I need to keep moving. I break into a jog, the highway's hum louder now. My flashlight's dimming, another screw up. I should have charged it. The desert feels alive, every shadow a threat. I think about my van, my home, probably being torn apart by that creep. Losing it hurts, but surviving's all that matters. The whistling stops, and that's worse. Silence means he's close, planning something. I grip my knife tighter, my hands slick with sweat. I reach the highway's edge, asphalt gleaming under moonlight. No cars, just empty road. I'm exposed, but I can't go back. I start walking, fast, toward Albuquerque's distant lights. My legs are jelly, but fear keeps me going. Then I hear it, tires on gravel. Headlights flare behind me, and I dive into the ditch, hard in my throat. The vehicle slows, and I know I'm out of time. This is it, run or die. The headlights pin me in the ditch, and I'm shaking, knife clutched like it'll save me. The vehicle's a pickup, idling on the highway's shoulder. A door slams, and boots hit the ground. "Hey, you okay?" a woman's voice calls. It's calm, almost kind, and for a second, I want to believe it's safe. But my gut's screaming. This is Albuquerque, where nothing's what it seems. I stay low, the horror of the night crushing me. I've made too many mistakes, and trusting a stranger now could be the worst one yet. I peek out. She's older, maybe 50, with gray hair tied back, holding a flashlight. She looks normal, like someone's mom, but that man from the gas station looked normal too, at first. "I saw you running," she says, stepping closer. "You hurt." Her tone's soothing, but there's something off. Her eyes don't match her smile. It's disturbing, like she's playing a part. I grip my knife, my mind flashing to La Llorona, the weeping woman who lures people to their doom. Is this her? I'm fine. I croak, staying in the ditch. My voice betrays my fear. She frowns, tilting her head, and I notice her flashlight's beam lingering on my backpack, not my face. "Come on, I'll drive you to town," she insists. My heart's racing. I want to believe her, but the whistling's gone quiet, and that scares me more. Is she with him? I think about my van, the handprint, the cigarette. Every choice I've made tonight's led to this, and I'm not sure I can outrun it. I stand, keeping distance. "Thanks, but I'll walk." My legs are shaky, but I edge toward the highway. Her smile fades, and she steps closer, too fast. "You don't look fine," she says, her voice sharper now. My flashlight's dead, but moonlight catches something in her hand. Not a flashlight, a blade. My blood runs cold. This isn't La Llorona. This is worse, a trap, and I fell for it. The man was the bait, and she's the killer. I bolt, sprinting down the highway, thorns tearing at my ankles. She shouts, her voice twisting into something feral. Headlights flare again, the pickup's moving, gaining on me. I veer into the desert, my lungs screaming. I hear her laugh, high and cruel, and it's the scariest thing yet. I'm not just running from her. I'm running from my own stupidity. I should have stayed in the van, fought back, anything but this. The desert's a maze, and I'm lost in it. I trip, slamming into the dirt. My knife skids away, and I scramble for it, sobbing. The pickup's close, its engine roaring. I grab the knife, but she's on me, her shadow looming. "You shouldn't have run," she says, almost sad. I swing the knife, but she's faster, knocking it away. Pain explodes in my side as her blade bites deep. I scream, collapsing, blood soaking my shirt. This is it. My deadly mistake was trusting I could escape. I'm fading, the desert spinning. But then, a twist. Her face changes, eyes glowing yellow, unnatural. She's not human, not anymore. Skinwalker, my mind whispers, Theo's stories flooding back. She leans close, whispering in a language I don't know, her breath hot and foul. The horror's unbearable, knowing I'm dying to something ancient, evil. My vision blurs, and I think of my van, my journal, the life I'll never get back. It's tragic, pointless. She stands, wiping her blade, and walks away, leaving me to bleed out. The pickup's engine fades, and the desert's silent again. I try to move, but my body's done. Stars blink above, cold and indifferent. I think about Flagstaff, my old coffee shop, how I thought van life would save me. Instead, it led me here, to a cruel end in Albuquerque's dust. My last breath shallow, and I'm gone. Just another story for the desert to swallow. No one finds my van for weeks. When they do, it's gutted, my journal missing. Locals whisper about the woman who hunts the highways, a skinwalker wearing human skin. The police call it a random killing, but those who know the desert know better. It's a warning, don't park where the shadows move. My story's over, but hers goes on, waiting for the next fool to break down. The wheels of my van crunch over gravel as I pull into a quiet clearing just outside Taos, New Mexico. I'm Elias Morrow, 32 years old, from Durango, Colorado. My van's a beat-up rig I converted myself, wooden bunk, solar panels, and a cooler that's seen better days. I've been living this van life dream for 3 years, chasing open roads and cheap parking. Tonight, I'm tucked into a forested spot near the Rio Grande Gorge. The river's rush faint in the distance. It's peaceful, but there's a weird vibe in the air, like the trees are holding their breath. I'm exhausted from driving, ready to kick back with a beer. I lock the van's doors and crack open a window for air. The forest smells sharp, all pine and damp earth. I met a guy named Carla at a diner in Santa Fe yesterday, big dude with a laugh like a foghorn. He said Taos can be spooky at night, especially near the gorge. I laughed it off, but now, alone, his words itch at me. I fire up my camp stove to heat some chili. The flames hiss cutting through the silence. The clearing's empty, just my van in the woods, but I can't shake a creepy feeling, like I'm not as alone as I think. I dig into my chili, the spicy warmth grounding me. My phone's got one bar, barely enough to check messages. Van life's taught me to love solitude, but tonight, the quiet's got a horror movie edge. Back in Durango, I was a mechanic, fixing cars for folks who never left town. This van's my ticket out, my way to see the world. But Taos feels different, like it's hiding something. I glance out the window, half expecting eyes in the dark. Nothing, just trees swaying in the breeze. I grab my guitar, strumming a few chords to shake the nerves. Music's my therapy, keeps the loneliness at bay. Carla mentioned some local legend, something about a wailing man tied to the gorge. Said people hear cries at night, then vanish. I roll my eyes, picking out a tune. I've heard plenty of ghost stories on the road. Most are just campfire BS. But as I play, a faint sound cuts through my chords. Not a cry, but a low hum, like someone chanting. My fingers freeze on the strings. I set the guitar down, heart picking up. The hum's gone, but now the forest feels too still, like it's listening. I tell myself it's nothing, maybe wind, or my imagination running wild. But Taos has a rep for weirdness, and I'm parked right by the gorge. I check the locks again, a habit from sketchy rest stops. My flashlight's on the counter, a heavy one I could swing if needed. Not that I'm expecting trouble, but you don't live on the road without a little paranoia. I crawl into my bunk, pulling the curtains tight. The van's cozy, with fairy lights I strung up for vibe. But tonight, they're not helping. That hum's stuck in my head, and I'm wondering if Carla's story wasn't just talk. I think about moving to a Walmart lot, but it's late, and I'm too tired to drive. Besides, this spot's free, and my budget's tight. I tell myself I'm overreacting, but my gut's saying something's off, something scary. I check my phone again, one bar, flickering. If shit hits the fan, I'm on my own. Van life's full of risks, breakdowns, bad weather, creepy locals. I've handled them all, like the time I outran a storm in Utah. But this feels different, more disturbing. I lie back, trying to focus on the river's sound. It's soothing, but not enough. The forest's too quiet now, and I'm starting to think parking here was a mistake. I jerk awake, not sure why. The van's dark, my fairy light's off. Odd, since they're solar-powered. I grab my flashlight, flicking it on. The beam catches something outside the window. A shadow, quick and gone. My heart's in my throat. Probably a deer, right? But it moved wrong, too upright. I sit up, listening hard. Nothing but my own breathing. The horror's creeping in, and I'm wide awake now, wondering what's out there. I grip the flashlight, telling myself to calm down. It's just the woods, just Taos playing tricks. But deep down, I know something's wrong. Carla's wailing man story doesn't sound so dumb anymore. I pull my blanket tighter, eyes locked on the window. The night's young, and I've got a bad feeling it's about to get worse. Whatever's out there, it's close, and I'm not ready for it. I'm still clutching my flashlight, staring at the window where that shadow slipped by. My heart's hammering, and the van feels like a trap. It's barely dawn, gray light creeping through the pines outside Taos. I didn't sleep after that scare, too spooked. The Rio Grande Gorge is close, its rumble a faint comfort, but the forest's got this horror vibe now. I crawl to the front, checking the van's battery. Shit, the fairy lights drained it more than I thought. Starting the engine's iffy, and I'm low on gas. Great start, Elias. I step outside, the cold biting my face. The clearing's quiet, but I scan the ground for tracks. Nothing clear, just pine needles and dirt. That shadow's burned into my brain, though. Was it a person? An animal? My gut's screaming it wasn't a deer. I think about Carla's wailing man story. He said folks hear cries, then poof, gone. I shake it off and check the van's tires. One's low, another screw up. I've got a pump, but it's manual, and I'm already beat. This spot's feeling scarier by the minute. Back inside, I heat coffee, the stove's hiss calming my nerves. I need a plan. Stay or go? Taos has a town center, cafes, people, but it's a haul, and my van's limping. There's a campground nearby, but it's pricey, and my wallet's thin. I sip my coffee, wincing as it burns my tongue. Dumb mistake, like parking here without a full tank. Carla warned me about the gorge, and I blew him off. Now I'm wondering if he knows more than he let on. The forest's too quiet, and it's disturbing. I grab my map, tracing routes. The campground's safer, but if my van dies, I'm screwed. Town's better, but I need to fix the tire and pray the battery holds. My phone's still got one bar, useless for calling. I think about Durango, how I'd be at my old shop now, wrenching cars. Vanlife's freedom, but it's also this, alone, with problems stacking up. I step outside again, scanning the trees. Something glints in the dirt, a metal shard, sharp and rusted. My stomach twists. That wasn't there yesterday. I pick up the shard with a stick, turning it over. It's part of a blade, maybe a knife. My mind jumps to horror stories, murderers, cults. Taos has weird history. I read about missing hikers, bodies found near the gorge. Is this a sign? I toss the shard, but it's too late. The fear's real now, and it's scary. I check the van's locks, my hands shaky. I'm torn. Fix the tire and risk staying, or limp to town and hope for the best. Every choice feels like a trap. I start pumping the tire, the manual pump squeaking with each push. Sweat beads on my forehead despite the cold. I keep glancing at the trees, expecting that shadow again. Carla's voice echoes, spooky at night. Understatement. I'm halfway done when I hear it. A low hum, like last night, but clearer, coming from the gorge. My skin crawls. It's not wind. It's deliberate, like a voice. I stop pumping, gripping the flashlight. The hum fades, but the forest feels alive, watching me. I finish the tire, my arms aching. The van's ready, but I'm not. That hum's got me rattled, and the blade shards a red flag. I think about mistakes I've made. Ignoring Carla, not charging the battery, picking this spot. Vanlife's full of risks, but this feels personal, like something's targeting me. I climb into the driver's seat, key in hand. The engine sputters, but starts. Relief hits, but it's shaky. I need to move, but where? Town, campground, or somewhere else. I pull onto the dirt road, the van rattling. The gorge looms to my left, dark and deep. I'm aiming for Taos's town center, hoping for safety in numbers. But as I drive, I spot something in the rearview mirror, a figure standing in the clearing I just left. It's too far to see details, but it's human-shaped, motionless. My heart's in my throat. Was it there the whole time? The sight's disturbing, and I floor it, the van groaning. I'm not imagining this. Something's wrong. The road twists, and the figure's gone, but my pulse won't slow. The hum starts again, faint, like it's following me. I grip the wheel, my knuckles white. Taos's lights are miles away, and my van's barely holding together. I'm driving blind. No clear plan, just a need to escape. But the forest feels like it's closing in, and that figure's image is stuck in my head. Whatever's out there, it's not done with me, and I'm running out of time. The van's engine groans as I speed toward Taos, the gorge's shadow looming in my mirrors. That figure in the clearing's got my nerves fried, and the hum's still trailing me, faint but relentless. It's not just in my head. This is horror-level shit, and I'm caught in it. My phone's dead now, no bars, no lifeline. The road's narrow, trees crowding in, and my battery light's flickering again. I'm cursing myself for not fixing it in Durango. The forest feels alive, like it's watching, and I'm starting to think parking by the gorge was the dumbest move I've made. I hit a gas station on the outskirts of town, a dingy place with a single pump. The clerk's an older woman, face like leather, eyeing me as I prepay. I'm pumping gas when I notice a guy across the lot, leaning on a beat-up truck. He's tall, gaunt, with a hood pulled low. He's staring, not moving, and it's scary as hell. My hands shake, spilling gas on my boots. I think of the figure in the clearing. Was it him? The blade shard flashes in my mind, and I'm sure something's clearly wrong. I finish and climb into the van, locking the doors. The guy's still there, lighting a cigar. The smoke curls, and he tilts his head like he knows I'm watching. My heart's pounding. Cigar, not cigarette, but it feels connected, like a taunt. I start the engine, ready to bolt, but the clerk taps my window. "You dropped this," she says, holding my receipt. I grab it, muttering thanks, my eyes on the guy. He's gone, truck and all, like he vanished. This isn't normal. It's disturbing. I peel out, aiming for a Walmart lot in Taos. Bright, busy, safe. But the van's coughing, battery dying. I spot a dirt pull out and limp into it, the engine cutting out. Shit, I'm stranded, miles from town, with the gorge nearby. The hum's louder now, coming from the trees. It's not chanting. It's a voice, low and guttural, saying my name. Elias. My blood freezes. No one knows I'm here, not even Carla. This is horror, pure and simple, and I'm trapped. I grab my flashlight, checking the locks. The hum stops, replaced by a rustle in the brush. My beam catches nothing, but the air's thick, charged with something evil. I think of Taos legends, the Wailing Man, a spirit or killer tied to the gorge. Carla said he lures people with cries, but this feels personal. My name, spoken like a curse. I'm shaking, my flashlight beam jittery. The van's a cage, and I'm the prey. Something's hunting me, and it's close. I crawl to the back, peering through the rear window. The forest's dark, but I see movement, a shape, tall and thin, weaving through the pines. It's him, the cigar guy, or something worse. My mind screams Skinwalker, a Navajo myth I heard in Durango. They mimic voices, stalk victims. This fits, and it's terrifying. I clutch my wrench, the only weapon I've got. It's heavy, but against this? Useless. The shape stops, facing the van, and I swear it's smiling. The hum starts again, my name woven into it. Elias, Elias. It's coming from all sides, like the forest itself is speaking. My flashlight dies, plunging me into darkness. I fumble for my lighter, hands shaking so bad I drop it. The rustling's closer, branches snapping. I'm making mistakes, staying here, not running. But where do I go? The gorge is a death trap, town's too far. I'm cornered, and whatever's out there knows it. I light a candle, the tiny flame, my only defense. The van's windows are fogged, but I see a handprint smear across one, slow and deliberate. My heart stops. It's not human. Too long, too thin. The hum's a growl now, vibrating the van. I think of Carla, his warning, my arrogance. I should have listened. This isn't a story. It's real, and it's happening. The shape's right outside, and I hear a scrape, like claws on metal. I'm out of time. The scraping stops, and a face presses against the window. Pale, eyeless, mouth stretched wide. It's not the cigar guy. It's something else, something from the gorge. My scream catches in my throat. The voice hisses, "Elias, come out." It's not human, not anymore. The horror's overwhelming, and I know I'm not imagining it. The van shakes, like it's being lifted. I'm trapped, and whatever this is, it's not letting me go. Something's very, very wrong. The van's shaking, that eyeless face still pressed against the window, its mouth gaping like a void. My candle flickers, barely holding back the dark. The voice hisses my name again, Elias, and it's pure horror. I'm gripping my wrench, heart slamming, knowing I can't stay. The van's dead, no engine, no escape. That thing, Skinwalker, Wailing Man, whatever, isn't human, and it's here for me. I fumble for my backpack, stuffing in water and my lighter. The scraping's back, claws raking the van's side. I've got to run, or I'm dead. I ease the side door open, the creak deafening. The face vanishes, but the hum's everywhere, vibrating my bones. I slip out, crouching, and bolt into the forest. Pines whip my face. The gorges roar loud to my left. My flashlight's gone, but moonlight filters through, enough to see roots and rocks. The hum turns to a wail, high and scary, chasing me. I'm sprinting, lungs burning, knowing one slip could end me. I don't look back, can't afford to. Thorns tear my jacket as I weave through trees. The wail's closer, joined by footsteps, too fast, too heavy. My mind's screaming skinwalker, Carla's story about the wailing man luring victims to the gorge. Is this it? I trip, slamming my knee into a rock, pain shooting through me. I scramble up, blood soaking my jeans. The forest feels alive, branches snapping like they're reaching. I'm making mistakes, running blind, no plan, but stopping's death. I spot a clearing ahead, the gorge's edge glinting under stars. The whale's right behind me, and I feel hot breath on my neck. I dive behind a boulder, heart pounding so loud I'm sure it hears. The footsteps slow, circling. My wrench is slick with sweat, useless against this thing. I peek out, nothing, just shadows. But the whale's softer, like it's toying with me. It's disturbing, knowing it could strike any time. I need the highway, a car, anything human. I crawl toward the gorge, its drop a black abyss. The whale stops, and silence is worse. My lighter's my only light, its flame shaking. I hear a chuckle, low and wrong, from the trees. It's playing with me, like a cat with a mouse. I think of Taus's missing hikers, bodies found mangled, or not found. My fault for parking here, ignoring Carla. I stand, legs jelly, and run again, aiming for a faint road beyond the gorge. The road's close, gravel underfoot, but the wail erupts, deafening. I glance back, a shape, tall and twisted, loping after me. Its limbs are wrong, too long, jerking like a puppet. My scream stuck, and I'm running faster than I thought possible. The gorge is to my left, a death trap. I veer right, toward the road's glow. Headlights flash, a car. I wave my lighter, yelling, but the wail drowns me out. The car speeds by, oblivious. I'm alone, and it's gaining. I hit the road, asphalt hard under my boots. The shape's still coming, its chuckle now a growl. My knees throbbing, slowing me. I think of Durango, my old life, safe, boring. Vanlife was freedom, but it's led to this horror. I spot a ditch and dive in, rolling into mud. The shape stops on the road, sniffing. My lighter's out, and I'm holding my breath, praying it passes. The growl's close, and I know I'm not outrunning this. I crawl through the ditch, thorns cutting my hands. The shape's pacing above, its shadow flickering. I'm shaking, wrench ready, though it's pointless. The highway's empty, no more cars. My only shot's reaching Taos, but it's miles away, and my knee's shot. The growl softens, like it's waiting. I think of my van, my guitar, all I'm losing. I made it this far, but the horror's not done. I need to move, now. I bolt from the ditch, sprinting down the highway. The shape shrieks, a sound that rips through me, and it's after me. My knee buckles, but fear keeps me going. The road's a blur, Taos's lights faint ahead. I'm out of tricks, out of time. The whale's right behind, and I feel claws graze my back. This is it, life or death, and I'm losing. The gorge's roar fades, but the thing's breath is hot, and I know I can't escape. I'm stumbling down the highway, the thing's claws snagging my jacket. Taos's lights are a tease, too far to save me. The wail's deafening, and my knees screaming, but I'm running on pure terror. A pickup truck appears, headlights blinding. I wave, shouting, and it slows. A guy leans out, maybe 40, with a concerned frown. "You okay?" he asks. I'm gasping, blood dripping from my hands. This is my shot, but the horrors taught me trust is dangerous. The thing's gone quiet, and that's scarier than the whale. I climb into the truck, my wrench still gripped. "Just drive," I beg, voice cracking. The guy, "Hank," he says, nods, hitting the gas. The gorge fades behind us, but I'm scanning the trees, expecting that shape. Hank's asking questions, but I barely hear. My back stings where claws grazed me, and the pain's disturbing. I think of the wailing man, how Carla said he never stops. Was that him, or something worse? I'm safe for now, but my gut's screaming I'm not. Hank's truck smells of leather and coffee, grounding me. "What happened?" he asks again. I mutter about a crazy guy, not ready to say skinwalker. He seems kind, but his eyes keep flicking to me, like he's sizing me up. It's unsettling, and I'm wondering if I made a mistake getting in. Taos has stories, killers posing as help. There was a case in the 80s, hitchhikers vanishing. My wrench feels heavy, reassuring. The road's quiet, but the horror's not over. I can feel it. We hit Taos's edge, streetlights washing over us. Hank offers to take me to a motel. I nod, too tired to argue, but my nerves are raw. My back's throbbing, and I touch it. My hand comes away wet, blood. The graze wasn't shallow. Panic spikes. Was it poisoned? Skinwalker claws, cursed or worse. I'm spiraling, thinking of my van, abandoned, my life unraveling. Hank's watching me, and his smile's off, like he knows something. This is bad, and it's my fault for trusting him. Hank pulls into a motel lot, but it's dark, half the neon sign busted. Wait here, he says, stepping out. My heart's racing. He's too calm, too eager. I notice a knife on his dash, stained, not a kitchen blade. My blood runs cold. This isn't a skinwalker. It's a trap, a murderer working the roads. The plot twist hits. The wailing man was a lure, drawing me to Hank. I grab my wrench, ready to run, but my back's burning, and I'm dizzy. I'm out of moves. I stumble out, the motel lot spinning. Hank's coming back, knife in hand, his smile gone. You're hurt, he says, like it's a fact, not concern. I swing my wrench, but my arm's weak, and he dodges, laughing. The pain's crippling, and I'm on my knees, blood pooling. This is my deadly mistake, trusting the truck, not the forest. The skinwalker was a trick, a myth to mask men like Hank. The horror's human, and it's worse. Hank kneels, his knife cold against my throat. You should have stayed in the gorge, he whispers. My vision's fading, the wail echoing in my head, but it's just my mind now. I think of Carla, my guitar, Durango's safety. Vanlife was my dream, but it's ended in this cruel, tragic mess. The knife bites, and I'm choking, life slipping. Hank's face is the last thing I see, not the skinwalker's. Taos claims another, and I'm gone. The motel lot's empty by morning. My van's found weeks later, gutted, no trace of me. Locals talk of the wailing man, but the cops blame a drifter, case closed. Hank's truck rolls on, hunting highways, using the gorge's myths to cover his kills. My story's a whisper now, a warning for vanlifers. Don't stop near Taos. The gorge keeps its secrets, and men like Hank keep killing. It's a tragedy, and I'm just its latest victim. No one connects the dots. Carla hears of my van, assumes I moved on. The knife's cleaned, the truck's repainted. Taos's lights shine, hiding the blood in its shadows. My wrench lies in the motel dirt, forgotten. The wailing man's cry echoes, but it's Hank who listens, smiling, waiting for the next lost soul. The desert doesn't care, and neither does he. My life's over, but his hunt's just begun. The desert dust settles as I park my van on a lonely stretch outside Las Cruces, New Mexico. I'm Maris Vega, 27 years old, from Tucson, Arizona. My van's a rusty home on wheels, fold-out bed, propane stove, and a shelf of dog-eared sci-fi novels. I've been roaming for a year, chasing sunsets and cheap campsites. Tonight, I'm near the Organ Mountains, their jagged peaks looming under a fading pink sky. It's quiet, just the hum of crickets, but there's a weird edge to the air, like something's watching. I'm beat from driving, ready to heat up some soup and crash. I lock the van's doors, a reflex from too many sketchy nights. In Tucson, I waited tables, saving every tip for this life. Now, I'm free, but Las Cruces feels off. I met a woman, Luz, at a gas station in Deming. She was wiry, with sharp eyes, warning me about bad spots near the mountains. People disappear, she said, no smile. I brushed it off, but her words stick as I light my stove. The flames flicker is cozy, but the desert's vastness outside is giving me horror vibes. I sip my soup, the salty warmth steadying me. My phone's got no signal, typical for these off-grid spots. Van life's about solitude, but tonight, the quiet's heavy, almost scary. I glance out the window, half expecting something in the shadows. Nothing but cacti and rocks. Luz mentioned a local story, some ghost dog that roams the desert, tied to old murders. I laugh, trying to shake the chill. Ghost stories are for campfires, not real life. Still, I pull the curtains tight. I grab my sketchbook, doodling to calm my nerves. Drawing's my thing, landscapes, mostly, like the mountains out there. But as I sketch, a faint howl cuts through the night. Not a coyote, too deep, too deliberate. My pencil stops. I tell myself it's nothing, just wind or an animal. But Las Cruces has a dark side. I read about a killer in the 70s, bodies left in the desert. The howl comes again, closer, and my heart's thudding. This is starting to feel disturbing. I set the sketchbook down and check the locks again. My flashlight's handy, a big one I could swing if needed. Not that I'm expecting trouble, but Vanlife teaches you to be ready. The howl's gone, but the silence is worse, like the desert's holding its breath. I think of Luz, her warning about bad spots. Maybe this is one. I consider moving to a rest stop, but it's dark and my gas is low. I'm stuck here till morning, and that's not a fun thought. I crawl into my sleeping bag. The van's familiar creaks usually comforting. Not tonight. The mountains loom outside, their shadows sharp through the curtain gaps. I try to focus on my plans. Maybe hit a Las Cruces cafe tomorrow, sketch the town. But Luz's ghost dog story nags at me. She said it howls before something bad happens. I roll my eyes, but my gut's uneasy. The desert's too quiet now, and it's got a horror movie feel I can't shake. I check my phone again. No bars, no surprise. If something goes down, I'm on my own. I've handled creepy nights before, like that time in Nevada with a drunk guy banging on my van. But this feels different, more sinister. I think of my old Tucson life. Safe, predictable. Van life's worth it, but moments like this test me. The howl's absence is scarier than its presence, and I'm wondering if I picked the wrong spot to park. I jerk awake, my sleeping bag tangled. No howl, just a scratching sound, faint but close, like claws on the van's side. My heart's racing as I grab my flashlight. The beam shakes as I aim it at the window. Nothing, but the scratching's real, slow and deliberate. It's not wind or a branch. There's no tree nearby. The horror's creeping in, and I'm wide awake, telling myself it's nothing. But deep down, I know something's out there, and it's not friendly. I lie still, listening, the flashlight heavy in my hand. The scratching stops, but I hear a low growl, almost human. My skin crawls. Luz's ghost dog story doesn't sound so crazy now. I think of the murders, the desert secrets. Whatever's outside, it's close, and I'm alone. The night's just started, and I've got a bad feeling it's about to get worse. I grip the flashlight tighter, ready for whatever comes next. Morning light filters through my van's curtains, but I'm already up, rattled from last night's growl. My flashlight's still in hand, and my sketchbook's open to a half-finished mountain. I'm Maris Vega, stuck outside Las Cruces, and that scratching's got me on edge. The Oregon mountains loom outside, beautiful but creepy, like they're hiding something horror-level bad. My soup's cold, and my stomach's knotted. I need to move, but my van's gas is low, and I'm not sure where's safe. This spot's starting to feel like a mistake. I step outside, the desert air sharp. The van's side has faint scratches, shallow, like claw marks. My heart skips. Was it that growl? No paw prints, just dust. Luz's ghost dog story nags at me. She said it's a warning tied to old killings. I shake it off and check the tires. One's soft, not flat, but close. I've got a pump, but it's slow, and I'm jumpy, scanning the cacti for movement. The desert's too quiet, and it's scary. Back inside, I fire up the stove for coffee. The routine helps, but my mind's racing. Stay or go. Las Cruces has a Walmart lot. Busy, safe, but it's a drive, and my gas is iffy. There's a campground closer, but it's pricey, and my cash is tight. I burn my tongue on the coffee, cursing. Dumb move, like parking here without a full tank. Luz's warning about bad spots feels real now. I'm alone, no phone signal, and the scratches are a disturbing sign something's wrong. I grab my map, plotting routes. The campground's my best bet, but if the tire blows, I'm screwed. Town's farther, and I'd need gas first. I think of Tucson, my old diner job, boring but safe. Vanlife's freedom comes with this. Problems piling up, no one to help. I step outside again, and that's when I see it. A bone, bleached and gnawed, half buried near the van. My stomach twists. It's too big for a rabbit, too fresh. This isn't random. I kick the bone away, but the fear's sinking in. The ghost dog, the murders. Las Cruces has a dark history. I read about a killer who hunted campers, never caught. Is this connected? The bone's a warning, and it's horror movie creepy. I check the van's locks, my hands shaky. I need to decide, pump the tire and risk staying, or limp to the campground and pray. Every option feels like a trap, and I'm second-guessing everything. I start pumping the tire, the manual pump squeaking. Sweat drips despite the chill. I keep glancing at the mountains, expecting that growl again. Luz's voice echoes. People disappear. I'm halfway done when a shadow flickers in the brush. Quick, low, like a dog. My heart's pounding. I stop, gripping the pump. No sound, no movement. I tell myself it's nothing, but the desert's watching, and it's disturbing. I'm not alone out here. I finish the tire, arms aching. The bone and shadow have me spooked, and I'm kicking myself for ignoring Luz. Vanlife's full of risks, breakdowns, creeps, but this feels personal, like something's marked me. I climb into the van, key in hand. The engine sputters, but starts. Relief's fleeting. I need to move, but where? Campground or town? The shadow's gone, but my gut's screaming it's still out there, waiting. I pull onto the dirt road, the mountains glaring in my mirrors. I'm aiming for the campground, hoping for safety. But as I drive, I spot something in the dust, a paw print, huge, pressed deep. My blood runs cold. It's not a coyote's. It's too big, too deliberate. The ghost dog's real, or something worse is stalking me. The sight's scary, and I floor it, the van rattling. I'm not imagining this. The road stretches, empty and endless. The paw prints burned into my brain, and I'm wondering if I'm already too deep in this horror. The campground's close, but the desert feels alive, closing in. I grip the wheel, my knuckles white. Something's out there, and it's not just a myth. It's hunting, and I'm running out of time to escape whatever's coming for me. The van's rattling as I speed toward the campground outside Las Cruces, the Organ Mountains shadows stretching long. That paw print's got my heart pounding, and the desert's too quiet, like it's hiding something horror-level bad. My gas gauge is dipping, and the tire's holding, for now. I keep checking my mirrors, expecting that shadow from the brush. Luz's ghost dog story feels real, and I'm kicking myself for parking near the mountains. The road's empty, but my gut's screaming I'm not alone. Something's very wrong. I hit a gas station just before the campground, a rundown place with a flickering sign. The clerk, a guy with a patchy beard, barely glances up as I prepay. I'm pumping gas when I see it, a dog, massive, black, standing across the lot. Its eyes glow yellow, locked on me. My stomach drops. This isn't a stray. It's the ghost dog, or something worse, and it's scary as hell. I fumble the nozzle, gas splashing my hands. The dog doesn't move, just stares. I finish and dive into the van, locking the doors. The dog's still there, head low, like it's sizing me up. I start the engine, hands shaking. The clerk bangs on my window, making me jump. "You okay?" he asks, frowning. I nod, muttering something, my eyes on the dog. It's gone, like it melted into the air. My heart's racing. This is no normal animal. It's disturbing, and I'm sure it's tied to the scratches, the bone, the paw print. I peel out, aiming for the campground. The van's coughing, gas low. I spot a pullout near the campground and stop, needing to think. The mountains loom, dark and silent. I grab my flashlight, checking the locks. That's when I hear it, a growl, deep and close, from the brush. My blood freezes. It's not wind or a coyote. It's deliberate, like a warning. I flick the flashlight on, the beam shaking. Nothing. But the growl's real, and it's circling the van. This is horror, and I'm trapped. I crawl to the back, peering through the rear window. The desert's pitch black, but I see movement. Low, sleek, like a dog stalking. My mind's racing with Las Cruces stories. The ghost dog, a spirit tied to a killer who hunted the desert. Luz said it howls before death. This growl's worse, personal. I clutch my knife, a small one from my kitchen kit. It's pathetic against this thing. The growl stops, and the silence is scarier, like it's waiting. I light a candle, the tiny flame my only comfort. The van's windows fog, but a shape presses against one. Huge, canine, with those yellow eyes. My breath catches. It's not a dog. It's too big, too wrong. The ghost dog's real, or it's something pretending. The horror's choking me. I think of the murders, bodies left in the sand. Was the killer human, or this? The shape moves, and I hear claws scrape the van, slow and taunting. I'm making mistakes, staying here, not running. The scraping's louder, the van rocking slightly. My candle flickers, and I'm shaking, knife useless. I think of Luz, her warning, my arrogance. Vanlife's freedom, but it's led to this nightmare. The growl starts again, low and guttural, saying Maris. My name, clear as day. No one knows I'm here. Not Luz, not anyone. This thing knows me, and it's terrifying. I'm cornered, no signal, no help. The campground's close, but I'm not sure I'll make it. I huddle in my sleeping bag, the flashlight dead now. The shapes circling, claws clicking on the ground. My candle's my only light, and it's fading. I hear a howl, not like before. Human, twisted, like a laugh. It's not just a dog. It's something else, something from the desert's dark heart. I think of my sketchbook, my Tucson days, all I'm losing. The van shakes harder, like it's being pushed. I'm out of time, and this is real. The howl stops, and a face appears at the window, not canine, but human, pale, with blacked-out eyes. It's smiling, teeth sharp. My scream's stuck, and the van's door rattles, like it's trying to get in. This isn't a ghost dog. It's worse, a killer or a thing wearing a human face. The horror's unbearable, and I know I'm not imagining it. Something's here, and it's not letting me go. I'm trapped, and it's only getting started. The van's door rattles, that pale, black-eyed face still grinning through the window. My candle's flickering, and the growl's a low rumble, saying Maris like a curse. This is horror, pure and raw, and I'm trapped. My knife's useless, the van's a coffin. I grab my backpack, shoving in water and my sketchbook. The scraping's louder, claws are worse, and I know I can't stay. The campground's close, but the desert's a death trap. I take a shaky breath, ease the side door open, and sprint into the night, the Oregon mountains looming like judges. Thorns snag my legs as I run, the desert freezing and dark. The howl's back, human and twisted, chasing me. My flashlight's dead, but moonlight shows cacti and rocks. I'm aiming for the campground's lights, faint ahead. The growl's closer, footsteps pounding. Too fast, too heavy. I stumble, scraping my hands, but I'm up, lungs burning. Luz's ghost dog story flashes. Does it hunt alone, or is this the killer it's tied to? It's scary, and I'm out of time. I weave through scrub, the howl now a laugh, echoing everywhere. My heart's hammering, and I'm making mistakes, running blind, no plan. I think of Tucson, my old diner, safe and dull. Vanlife's led me here, to this nightmare. I spot a ditch and dive in, thorns cutting deep. The footsteps slow, circling. My knife slick with sweat, useless against whatever this is. I peek out, a shape, tall, not canine, moving wrong, like it's mocking me. It's disturbing, and it knows I'm here. I crawl through the ditch, mud soaking my jeans. The shape's above, sniffing, its laugh a guttural snarl. I'm shaking, praying the campground's close. The howl starts again, closer, and I bolt, sprinting toward the lights. My legs are jelly, but fear's my fuel. I hear claws on dirt, gaining. The desert feels alive, wanting me dead. I think of Luz, her warning, my stupidity. I should have listened. The campground's glow is near, but so is that thing. I hit a clearing, the campground sign ahead. Hope spikes, but the laugh's right behind. I glance back, a figure, human but not, with those black eyes, loping after me. It's not a dog. It's worse, a killer or a thing wearing skin. My scream's stuck, and I'm running faster, the light so close. A camper's fire flickers, but no one's out. I yell, but the howl drowns me. The shape's claws graze my arm, burning like fire. This is life or death, and I'm losing. I dive behind a picnic table, heart exploding. The shape stops, head tilting, like it's toying with me. My arm's bleeding, the pain sharp and scary. I clutch my knife, ready to fight, but it's pointless. The campground's quiet, no help. I think of my van, my sketches, all I'm losing. The shape steps closer, its laugh a hiss. I'm cornered, but I won't go down easy. I stand, knife raised, and run again, toward the fire's glow, praying for a miracle. The fire's empty, just logs and ash. The shape's behind, its footsteps deliberate. I grab a burning stick, waving it like a weapon. The hiss turns to a snarl, and I feel hot breath. I'm slowing, my arm throbbing, blood dripping. The campground's a ghost town. Where is everyone? I spot a road, maybe to town, and veer toward it. Headlights flash. A truck. I wave the stick, screaming. It slows, and I'm begging for help, but the shape's still coming. I collapse near the road, the truck stopping. A woman steps out, older, with a flashlight. "You hurt?" she calls. I'm gasping, the stick falling. The shape's gone, but the howl's faint, watching. My arm's on fire, and I'm dizzy. I want to trust her, but this is Las Cruces, nothing's safe. The horror's not over, and I'm not sure I've escaped. I climb to my feet, knife ready, as she steps closer. The desert's silent, but it's waiting. I stagger toward the truck, the woman's face kind but shadowed. My vision's blurring, the pain spreading. The shape's howl is distant, but it's not gone. I'm alive, but barely, and every step feels like a trap. The woman's reaching for me, and I'm praying she's help, not another nightmare. My knife's still in hand, but my strength's fading. This is my last shot, and I'm not sure it's enough. The desert's watching, and it's not done with me. The woman's hand grips my arm, steadying me as I sway near her truck. "You're bleeding bad," she says, her voice calm but sharp. I'm Maris, half dead outside Las Cruces, and the howl's still echoing, faint but real. My arm's burning, blood soaking my sleeve. The horror's got me paranoid. This woman, Rosa, seems kind, but her eyes are too focused, like she's studying me. I clutch my knife, the desert's silence scarier than the growl. Trusting her could be my biggest mistake yet. Rosa helps me into the truck, the leather seat cold. "Hospital's close," she says, starting the engine. My head's spinning, the pain in my arms spreading like poison. I think of the ghost dog, the black-eyed figure. Was it real, or the killer Luz mentioned? My sketchbook's back in the van, my life left behind. Rosa's driving fast, but her glance feels wrong, like she knows more. It's disturbing, and I'm wondering if I'm safe. The truck hums, Las Cruces' lights nearing. My arms swelling, the claw mark blackening. I'm gasping, fear mixing with pain. "What got you?" Rosa asks, too casual. I mutter about a dog, not ready to say monster. Her smile's thin, and I notice a pendant on her neck, a dog's head, carved bone. My heart stops. Is she tied to it? Las Cruces has stories, cults, killers using myths as cover. The horror's human now, and I'm in her truck. We hit a quiet road, no hospital in sight. "Shortcut," Rosa says, but the desert's closing in. My knife's in my lap, but I'm too weak to lift it. The pain's unbearable, like fire in my veins. I think of the 70s murders, bodies dumped out here. Was Rosa part of it? My vision's fading, and I'm cursing myself for getting in. The howl's gone, but Rosa's humming, low and familiar, like the thing's growl. This is bad, and it's my fault. Rosa stops the truck, the desert black around us. "You're not making it," she says, her voice cold. My eyes widen. She's holding a syringe, not a knife. The plot twist hits. No ghost dog, just her, a killer using the myth to haunt. The claw mark was laced, poisoned. I swing my knife, but it's slow, and she bats it away, laughing. "You ran right to me," she says. The horror's human, cruel, and I'm trapped. My body's shutting down, and I'm out of fight. I slump, the syringes sting sharp in my neck. "Why?" I croak. Rosa leans close, her pendant gleaming. "The desert needs blood," she says, like it's scripture. My mind's screaming, cult, not killer. They've been here forever, feeding the mountains. My van, my sketches, Tucson, all gone. The pain's fading, but so am I. This is my deadly mistake, trusting Rosa, not the desert. The tragedy's mine, and it's over. Rosa drags me out, the sand cold under my back. I'm barely conscious, stars blurring above. The howl returns, but it's her cult, chanting, not a dog. They're circling, shadows with dog-head pendants. My blood's their offering, and I'm just another victim. Las Cruces' lights shine far off, useless. I think of Luz, her warning, my arrogance. Vanlife was my dream, but it's ended in this cruel, desert grave. My van's found later, empty, my sketchbook burned. The cops call it a drifter's death, case closed. Rosa's truck rolls on, her pendant hidden. Locals whisper of the ghost dog, but it's her cult, killing for the mountains. My story's a warning. Don't park where the shadows howl. The desert keeps its secrets, and Rosa keeps hunting. I'm gone, but her chant echoes, hungry for the next lost soul. No one links the deaths. Luz hears of my van, assumes I left. The cult's careful, their tracks erased. My knife lies in the sand, forgotten. Las Cruces shines, hiding its blood. The mountains watch, sated for now. My life's a footnote, and Rose is already stalking her next prey. The desert doesn't care, and neither does she.